And now to start the show, please welcome NaSTA Technical Officer. Oh wait, he's not here. Please welcome Jamie Parker East.
To the titles.
I think we're live.
Hello, welcome to Untitled.
Season 2.
Season 2.
Wow.
Season 2.
Start of a new beginning. My hat isn't staying on. Excellent.
Good stuff.
As you may be able to tell from the nuclear exposure on these cameras, we're outdoors, and this time we're at Cameron's place, which is.
Yeah, you guys have had quite the trek down from the north. How was your journey?
Oh, it was lovely. Emily, you did all the driving, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, nice nap.
Lots of smart motorways I discovered.
Yeah.
A lot of changes in
What are your
speed
thoughts on
limits.
that?
More on that later, actually.
Well, I think more on that right now.
Oh, right now. Excellent. Oh, yeah. Well, I knew this for yeah. Smart motorways. Well, Emily, would you like to kind of elaborate on the issues we had driving?
Well, I think they're not so smart. I didn't realise we were on one until I saw someone driving up the hard shoulder, which was really jarring to me.
We were just kind of driving along, and then Corey, you saw someone in your
I
peripheral
saw some
vision.
red in my peripheral, and then I heard Jamie go, "Oh, hello, he's in the hard shoulder."
Yeah, I
Look,
just
right,
turn
a
and
guy
go-
just comes
I go-
up the hard shoulder.
I go, hey up, there's someone in the hard shoulder. We look up and it's a smart motorway, and then
Then changes in speed.
my
galore.
goodness, we're going along, national speed limit, and
And then gets a bit.
And then we see a sign, and it's like 60. And it's like, oh, okay, we've got to drop it by 10. That's a bit odd. And it's like, oh, the next one, 50. Oh, well, that's a bit slow for a motorway, but okay. And then, oh, it's back up to 60. Right, okay, we'll speed up. Oh, national speed limit, brilliant. Now it's 50 again. Okay.
And
oh,
these
no.
all quite close to
Yes,
each
this
other.
was probably within the space of 10
fluctuation.
minutes.
Yeah.
Watch the screens change from 60 to 50
Yeah,
before. we get to
in the
one point.
distance, we could see the signs, and it just kept refreshing. And
They
you
were
I
It's
think
40
they
at
just
one
get a
point as
random
well.
number generator
yeah.
out and then just do whatever they fancy.
I was
I
thinking
think
it
if they
said
want
like
a lot of
57 or
tickets,
something.
yeah, if they want to get a lot of tickets, they're like, oh, we'll change it.
Well, Danny, you were saying in the
If it's a
car.
slow day in the office.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But Danny, you were saying in the car that on these they have like these what's the word? These screens across
Gantry?
gantry, and they have the speed on it, and then they have a speed camera on the left-hand side, and when the speed changes, snap, they get you if you don't slow down in time. So it's a con.
It's just tester reactions on the
Shall we
motorway.
move on?
Well,
I
now
think
you've
I will
made it
keep
here.
going if we don't move on.
We've not
Yeah.
done a show for the last 3.5 months.
Yeah.
Because we've been actually hanging out rather than making videos, which has been quite nice. So, shall we quickly fill people in on what we've been up to?
Yes, let's
Sounds like a
do that.
Well, immediately after the last show, could we have Matt to the stage, please?
Yes.
Because immediately after the last show,
I think someone
it was
needs
the
to
north-south
sub out.
one, and those of us in the south ordered a takeaway.
Yeah.
And it didn't come quite as we intended, and thus began a war between Deliveroo and Tesco, and Matt was...
Because we thought,
oh,
it's late, let's just quickly order a takeaway. That did not go to plan, did it, Matthew?
No, so we got our drinks. They arrived. The guy arrived with one bag. Bearing in mind, there were a number of us, as you see, and we all ordered meals. And all we got were, I think, 3 or 4 drinks.
3 drinks, I believe, yeah.
And of course, they were like, "Oh yeah, maybe another driver will come with the meals." No,
That has never happened in the history of Deliveroo.
no. So then you go onto the app, and the app is like, "Oh yeah, you can, we'll handle it for you." And they gave you like what didn't arrive. And at the point where you have to check about 90% of it, they then go, no, that can't be right. Message our like support agents. So then you message the support agents. And they go, yeah, we don't believe you either. We won't give you a reason, but we're denying your refund. They obviously think I'm scamming them, but in fact it's the other way around. So at that point, you apply the credit card. And so I sent a dispute into my credit card. And they said, okay, we'll deal with it from now. And at the end of that, they essentially Well, no. So Deliveroo actually came back via my credit card saying we dispute it, and my credit card provider just said we dispute it back because their reason was nonsense. And as far as I know, it's magically gone away, and I got my money back. But I guess I will not be using my Prime included Deliveroo subscription anymore.
No, that sounds like an awful idea.
Yeah, well, they did threaten to cancel my account, and they haven't done. So
overall, they sound like a lovely company.
Yeah, because
big
instead
tech
of
being
sending
big tech
us
as usual.
50 quid worth of food, they sent us 3 drinks.
Yes,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
quite literally liquidation.
well, that was the last episode of Untitled, and then following that up, we obviously had you and me are soon to no longer be part. Well, no, I shouldn't go that
Breaking
far,
news.
should I? No, but
You are.
Cameron, NaSTA, the National
Yes.
Student Television
Great
Association.
organisation, love 'em.
Over to you.
Yes, so they held the annual Student TV Awards back at the beginning of April, and the 4 of us, 5, Mark's in the gallery as well, were there, and we had a lovely weekend. And one of the highlights, of course, was this moment right there, when, after a few years of trying, our former / current station YSTV won Broadcaster of the Year.
What you can see in this shot in the background is me downing a whiskey the second that it gets announced.
Okay, that iconic reaction.
And you and me, Cameron, we had to run from the
opposite end of
the
the
NaSTA
stage, yeah.
committee table to go join them as well.
Yeah, great fun. You were very annoyed at me, Corey, because I did
You
sort
knew,
of know
you
that was
knew.
going to happen. In my
I'm glad
capacity
you
as
didn't tell us.
regional officer.
I did not, because
Yeah,
I had
you didn't
deliberately
bother
chosen
looking.
not to know any of the results.
I was going to say, is this because you chose not to, or because you just didn't read your emails?
I deliberately chose. Well, there might have been an email. I don't read them, but I deliberately chose
That's
not
my
to as
NaSTA
well.
technical officer.
I
Not
have
for
an
much
auto
longer.
response that tells you to message me on WhatsApp, so it's fine.
And then do you check WhatsApp?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
And not only did we take home Broadcaster of the Year, there were a couple of specific awards for people in
it's me.
Untitled. Mark's pulling off a double silver there. So one was with
Woo,
you,
well done,
Corey,
Marks.
for the pair of you, your work on Rose's Scheduler. And then Marks and I also picked up a silver. Well, Marks picked up a silver for post-production for Noughts and Crosses. I produced it, and for some reason got to go up. And the other thing that happened that weekend was Jamie, you and I got to present an award each.
We did indeed, yes.
As we might have alluded to at the top of the show.
Yes.
It went off without a hitch.
Without a hitch, nothing happened.
Yeah.
All my jokes landed without my mic being cut. I managed to make it on time. I was cued perfectly for my role and everything.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. This has never happened before or since.
Or during.
Or during.
Yeah.
But yes, we had a lovely time in Southampton.
It
And
was
then
very
we
good,
had
yeah.
another great weekend a few weeks later at the beginning of May, didn't we?
We did.
we?
It was a weekend, that's for
Did we?
sure.
Did we?
Did we?
You guys. No, I'm disputing it. I
Oh,
know
the
it was
great
Rose. I'm
weekend.
disputing if it was a great
the
weekend.
good, Yeah.
Oh, well,
Well, we
sucks to
had
suck.
fun.
I had a lovely weekend.
Yeah.
No,
we put
Rose's was lovely.
back up to York for the annual varsity with Lancaster to help out with
Back up
the,
to York. I live in York.
I live in York.
with the
Well, some
massive
of us
student
don't.
media broadcast. Just trying to think what the highlights are of the weekend. We all went for a very nice curry on the first
Oh,
night.
yeah.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's
That
lovely,
was, it was my
yeah,
birthday
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Birthday
Um,
curry.
Yeah.
It's always your birthday over Rose, isn't it?
Yeah, always is.
I suspect we may not have any slides. You'll note we couldn't get a TV out here and it went all fancy with the AR.
Oh.
And they're back.
Oh, right.
Yay!
Nothing happened.
Wonderful.
Cameron, what were you on about? You're
I don't know
hallucinating.
what-
That's
Anyway,
fine, it's fine.
Yeah. So I'm assuming most of you guys were making live streams work for most of the weekend, running around as roaming techies.
honestly can't remember.
Yep.
All I remember from that weekend was me and Emily sitting in a field with some cables.
I think they were about, what were they, like 200-metre cables each or something?
I think they were
like?
100 metre.
100
They were the
metres, that-
maximum of Cat 5, I think.
That was it, yeah. I think we had about 600-metre Ethernet cables that were all spaghetti.
I do remember us accidentally running signage for the darts.
Good.
Yes, and we were doing.
Well,
we were copying. So the way they had a system for the darts on where they filled in the numbers and it would kind of score the game. And we were opening the same system and copying what they were putting on the board to enter into our graphics. When I suddenly realised, if we're using the same system, why don't we just get them to do our job for us? And everyone I asked was like, oh no, they don't want to. I wandered over to the scorer. I explained what I wanted it to do, what it would take and what it would achieve. And he went, oh yeah, no, why weren't we doing that? So I was like, it literally took everyone in that room like an hour and a half to think about
In
it.
fairness, I was fixing 5 other things at a time.
Well, yeah,
and didn't
but
much
you had a
wanna do
graphics op, didn't you?
No, it was me.
Oh, well, that
You
sucks.
were my graphics op, basically.
That sucks to suck, then.
The other thing that happened was we were setting up a PTZ for board cam. And we had the board cam going to the screen, but we were trying to readjust it so it was shaking on the screen. Someone came over and went, oh, can you stop shaking the camera? We went, oh no, we just set it up. And went, no, the scorers are using that camera to score the game. You need to keep it still.
Yeah, so they weren't. The scorers weren't actually watching the game. They were watching our camera that we had on the projector to score.
Excellent.
So that's how good of a shot it was.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there were some other fun alumni contributions. Ben Allen finally got his kind of electoral college graphics working, which is lovely. We had a very fun live stream just wandering around campus on the Sunday of Roses, chatting to people, presented by Towels, produced by Matt the Wood Perkins, and teched by Sturkey.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a
we had the
combination.
the Sturkey cam was him. He had some of his work stuff attached to it.
That's
but
what he had to
stream
disappear
some
to.
stuff over the network. It was very cool. Just completely wireless camera that went straight back to the studio.
I was mostly in the studio editing as per usual.
Locked away, not allowed to see the daylight.
Get to go on a little field trip to do some filming for a Roses documentary that YSW were working on.
You did, didn't you?
Spent the day on Saturday at Free Climb, and we did a little video of Ruben trying his hand at some bouldering as well. That was good fun.
You got to see the sun over roses. You don't normally get to do that.
That's quite impressive.
Hey, the studio had windows this time.
It
Oh,
did.
wow.
So camera got to see daylight.
And the other thing that Marks and I worked on, which I'm hoping you can see, but if not, we'll just cut away to it, was the winning moment when we announced Lancaster had pulled off the 4-peat. And that was a result of some After Effects bodging from Marks and me staying up late editing archive footage of the last few Roses. And so that was great fun to be part of that moment.
Nice. Love some impressive graphics that get pulled off right at the
I
end.
enjoy if you pause at just the right time, you see it go pink because of the 1 year in like the 70s that it was a draw.
That it was a draw, yeah. Now, I have a feeling they might be backstage fixing stuff, but I'm going to ask Marks to come out because next up, we're going to talk about Eurovision and particularly the tech behind it as they run out to join us on set. Hello, Marks. So,
Hello. Yes, I have.
a couple of weeks after we came back from Roses, it was Eurovision time. What were your thoughts on this year?
It's all right.
Great, moving on.
I would like to concur. Sorry, not concur. I'd like to add something. It could have been worse.
Thank
well,
you.
There were some rather
There we go.
there were some rather interesting factoids that I found out later about the technical side of it, which is
It took a lot of tech work.
yes, the lighting
Strange,
rig,
that.
the lighting package behind the LED screen. A, there was a whole lighting package behind the LED screen which used to like shine through it for some effect. B, that lighting package was the size of the Eurovision 2023 lighting package.
Only one
Eck.
small package behind the screen was the size
Yes.
of... Oh, wow.
So they've
They-
really upsized since
They
then.
once again, I believe, I might be fact-checked on that, they once again broke the record for the biggest MA3 lighting console show file to have ever been created,
Good.
which I think they broke last year at over 1 gigabyte. For context, these show files are normally a couple megabytes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's impressive.
I mean, it's a big enough show that they needed to split it into I think 3 MA sessions because they could not run that many lights on one session, which is not saying something about the MAs because they can run the biggest shows out there, but it's just saying something about the scale of the show was just on another level.
It is crazy what they do there, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are crazy,
Yeah, some exciting news here. We have officially outlived the Gadget Show's half-assed successor, which was called Shop Smart Save Money. That has been axed by Channel 5, so we are now the
a
reigning...
slightly longer running.
We are the
Well-
reigning tech show.
We
Was it even a
exist
tech
and they
show?
don't. Yeah, well, originally it was.
Yeah,
The new one was. Yeah.
We are now a slightly longer living tech show than an actual tech show.
We win.
Excellent.
We'll take it.
I've just decided now that they were our nemesis, and we've beaten them. So
Oh, excellent.
we're
I wasn't
still
aware of
here.
that, but I now hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, a lot of the gallery, could you please undo the thing that I did?
Great.
All I've heard from the gallery is,
Axe the splitter.
I love how well this is going.
what's the splitter for?
Hardly know her.
What I realised about 2 minutes after starting the show is we forgot to actually run the slides into the ATEM.
What splitter are you
Outstanding.
using?
One
We
that's too
are-
clever because it's yours, but it's too clever because it's trying to do HDCP and the ATEM doesn't like HDCP.
Technical professionals, everybody.
I see.
So, but for this next bit, we do
Oh, you're
actually
using a
kind of-
Mac. Cringe. Anyway, carry on.
For this next bit, we do actually need the comfort monitor.
Yeah.
In
theory, it's
Awesome.
like
Yay!
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay.
Right.
Next up, as always, we're going to talk about what's been on our daylist. We love this Spotify feature.
We do.
And these are both yours, Dizzy.
Yeah, mine tend to be quite interesting because my music taste tends to vary. Musical theatre, classical and brass bands to like edgy punk. So it really, really takes whatever it can. So we have edgy teen rock Tuesday afternoon. Yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
that's you.
That just describes my music taste at the age of 14, and I kind of stand by it. And fearful animalistic. I genuinely could not tell you what that means because in this sunlight I can't see any of the songs that are on it.
I can tell you.
Is-
Nope, I don't know any of them.
Okay. Okay, yep. It's Orion Experience against me. That makes a lot of sense, yeah. I can only describe that as like late 2010s trans punk.
That's
Which
oddly
slaps.
specific.
Oh yeah, but it slaps. And then half of my other ones, I think my current one is Trumpet Ensemble, whatever today is, Saturday evening. Yeah, Spotify really just invents new words to describe whatever I listen to, and it's something.
Oh, it certainly is.
And from one reoccurring segment to another, it's time for an extended edition of Don't Use Windows for Signage. There were so
Above
many
our
this
heads,
time
you
that we...
should now be seeing through the power of liquid glass.
We've got a slide each this time for everyone who submitted them because there were just so many. So you're going to have to see.
Oh, these
You
are my
recognise them.
ones,
Those are
aren't
yours.
they?
Yeah, we're starting off with Dizzy's.
Okay.
Yes. I believe the one... I can't tell what the one on the left is. It looks like it might be some kind of McDonald's service machine. Not sure. The one on the far right entertained me a lot because that is one of the big signage screens at Amsterdam Airport. The ones that display when all the flights are boarding and what gates they are. Yeah, that's one of those screens that just Windows booted. It was good content. And then the second from left is IKEA. The brand new IKEA that opened on, I believe, Oxford Street. I can't remember.
I saw that one.
Yeah,
I really want to go.
It's all underground. It's
Yeah.
really cool. But one of the screens was oh no, that's not even IKEA. I'm pretty sure that's actually Decathlon.
We can say it's
Well done.
IKEA,
We
right?
can say
Same
it's
thing,
IKEA.
right?
Go with that.
It's fine. Yeah, I saw quite a few interesting windows for signage.
Excellent. Next up, Corey. Run.
Corey!
Or don't
Run
bother. Either
from
way.
the gallery.
Sorry. You can just see the literal dust flying away.
Crashing into the flying liquid glass.
I mean, yeah, what am I talking about?
Your windows for signage.
Oh, I can't quite read.
Can you grab that
This
camera?
one was the login screen on the big screen at Greg's place. That was our fault.
So just for context to see what we're dealing with, Marks, can you show this comfort monitor? Because it's currently
quite
pointing
sunny.
upwards.
Is the umbrella still around?
That's a shout, actually. I think the umbrella's
Like,
over.
we can't see the screen.
Are you going to pass it to
I
us
don't
down
remember
or
where
not?
that one was, what TV that one was
Oh,
on.
okay. Dan's got an umbrella.
That was a TV with the
Dan is dispatching an
Windows video
umbrella.
player at the bottom. That's a TV in a pub I walked past that had the like. We need to connect to a device. What is
This is a
going on?
disaster, and I love it.
Oh, and that bottom one is from NaSTA, where the big screen they had where they were announcing the award just had a mouse in the bottom.
That's not helped.
No.
No.
Actually,
no, if anything, that has hindered.
that's made it better for me.
See, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There
yeah,
we
no,
go.
that does
That's
something.
good.
Okay, cool.
I don't
Let's
know
do
how
the
much
show
in shot
outside
that is,
today.
but-
It's such nice weather. It'll be much fun.
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier to do it indoors.
It would. Next up, I think these are Dan's.
These are Dan's.
Oh, there's
Dan,
a
would you
lot
like
of
to tell us
them.
about your signage? He's just about to go to the toilet.
Never mind, moving on. Jamie, these are yours.
Right. The first one is... Oh, the first one was someone else taking a picture of me at work. I'm trying to I'm trying to break into a box because I'd forgotten my keys to fix some signage.
Checks out.
The one in the bottom left was NaSTA on the University of York campus, where it was boot looping or something. The one to the right of that was taken today by Dan. This was at the service station that we stopped at on the way here, and yeah, you can see that's not ideal. I can't remember what the top middle is.
It's just technical difficulties.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think that was me. The bottom one. Was that me? Yes. No, the bottom one. Someone had left the keyboard up at, I think, a National Express stop.
Newcastle mention.
Yeah. Top
I'm
right.
sorry.
Top right. I don't remember. But it's been a while. Let's be honest. It's
Yeah.
been a while since we've done this show. I'm not sure
Is
of
that
any
Jim
of
and
those.
Donna Kebab again?
Probably.
Because that was a recurring
No,
thing.
but there might be some of that coming up in a second as Marks rejoins us to talk about theirs.
We need like a rotating sofa.
What, some kind of like lazy Susan?
Yeah. Where we can swap
Like,
people in now.
Well, what we need is a revolve.
Ha ha ha.
No, seriously. What we need is a revolve. Speaking of things that revolve, we also have things that revolve. They're wheels, Cameron.
What?
It's a
Slide.
queue. It's a
Oh,
queue.
next slide, apparently.
Oh, never mind. Not the next slide. No. Back. Where
I
are
was
we?
confused.
Forwards.
I brought you
Forwards.
to do your Windows for signage.
Forwards.
Oh.
More windows for signage. Next.
Yes. Those sure things are they use Windows. that left one there was at Cambridge Drummer Street. No, not that one.
Was that mine?
That left. Yep. Fine. Moving on.
I think these are Matt's.
That left one exists.
We got
Now
through
what we
it
have
eventually.
to do, that's what we've been up to, or the stuff that's remotely interesting. Now all we've got to do is talk about 3.5 months worth of tech news. This is
How
gonna
hard
be
could this be?
fun.
Excellent.
So, Matt, this is you.
No, this is me.
This is Mark's.
You. Cool.
It
Yes.
says their name on the
Yeah, I'm
document.
controlling the slides, not the Google.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So, the Tesla Cybertruck
Which is a entertaining
Fine
thing in and
car.
of itself.
that also attempts to be a motor vehicle.
I love that it's literally banned in the UK for not being roadworthy.
It's banned in all of Europe, isn't it?
And,
Anyway,
and
carry
one
on.
of the, I don't know if this is one of the reasons for the ban, but certainly one of the issues is that they used the wrong kind of glue when putting it together. In that there were some, I think, purely aesthetic panels on the car that were prone to, quote, environmental embrittlement. In other words, they could fall off while you're driving because they use the wrong kind of glue.
Excellent.
Not ideal.
What else do you want apart from bits of your car falling off as you go down the motorway?
Well, because
Oh,
of
there's
that,
plenty.
because of that, they've now been recalled again.
Yep.
Next up,
Good.
Yes. Android.
Now, on this show, we're a big fan of open source software.
Yes.
We used to have a segment called Open
didn't.
Source Software.
We didn't.
Well, yeah, the distinction. But at one point, a show with this name has had a segment where we gave our best and favourite open source project of the
Yes,
week.
the Android open source project was not one of them.
No, it never was, but
It was an open source project. However,
for now.
all the quote is that all Android development work going forwards will happen in Google's internal branch, and Android source code. Well, a lot of the Android source codes, I'm having to keep qualifying this, was available to the public as part of what's called the Android open source project. Now, Google has been moving to less and less of it being available through the use of things like Google Play Services, which is effectively an app that comes with Android phones Android phones that are certified by Google that can receive updates through the Google Play Store, but is closed source and is built by Google, but has some system critical features. Well, not system critical, but you would have a lot of difficulty in making phones that the average consumer would find usable without Google Play services.
Fair enough.
And now they are moving even more development to their internal branch. Some of it will presumably get synced to the public once in a while, but it is a shift from one of the original selling points from Android back when iOS was back when it was just a glint in users' eye, was that it was entirely open source, in contrast to things like iOS, which was actively used as a selling point for Android, and now we're seeing that shift the other way.
Yeah, it's now a case of which company do you want do you want to use the source code that you have no idea what's happening on it? Your device could be doing anything. I mean, Android's been like that for a while now, but
yeah, Google Play Services has been a closed source blob for a long time, but I feel like,
This shows what their intentions are now, and
it's
could
not a
mean
surprise.
it could be. No, it's not a surprise, but it could mean one day that they may just give up on the whole open source thing altogether, because that's kind of the way they're going.
We shall see.
It's worth keeping
I
an
wouldn't
eye
want
on.
to speculate. but
No, we
shall
wouldn't want to
see.
speculate, but it's worth keeping an eye on.
Now, something a bit more fun.
Yay! In a lot more entertaining news, the Switch 2 came out, and I don't own one myself yet. I do want one, but a few of my friends do have them, and I have played about with it, and I like it a lot. It's everything that was good about the design of a Switch, but they've made it the quality and the size of it worlds apart, because my Switch is an original 2017 one, so I don't even have one of the OLED ones, which made it a lot better. It's worlds apart. And
The problem is it's not OLED.
no,
Which if you had an OLED and you're going to the Switch 2, the screen looks all right, but it's not an OLED anymore.
yeah, this is true, but also the sheer increase that they've made in processing power in it as opposed to the original OLED or original. I mainly know this through the realm of speedrunning and loading times, but for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, running it on the Switch 2 has saved almost half an hour off the speedrun records, solely because of how much shorter the loading time has
the
got.
Switch was really old.
Yeah.
Even when it came out.
Yeah.
Really slow when it came out. So I can understand that they've finally brought it up to speed.
Yeah.
I'm not as impressed. Obviously, you seem really impressed, and you're happy with the new one.
Yeah, because I mainly tend to play Switch games anyway, so it's just I don't tend to game on like Xbox, PlayStation, which have, when people compare them, they're like, oh, but Xbox and PlayStation, worlds ahead of it. And yeah, but also I don't really care. The main games I play are like Dragon Quest, Zelda, and Pokemon.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think the main problem people have, including me with the Switch 2, is just the price increase of everything. Obviously, the price was gonna, it's never not gonna. They're not gonna make a budget console type of thing. Well, they might do. You never know. But it's quite a lot of money. The games are a lot more money. Yeah. It's the same price, if not. If you get a Steam Deck second hand, you can get a cheaper Steam Deck.
That's exactly what I was about to say. At this point, a Steam Deck becomes far more of an appealing proposition. I suppose the thing that would push you towards a Switch as opposed to a Steam Deck would be the first-party games.
That's it.
and that's what.
And I must admit, I'm not really sold anymore. The only first-party games I've been playing are the Mario ones, including Mario Kart recently. I'm not really interested in the rest of them anymore. And I must admit, I had a slight interest in the Steam Deck, but I was never going to get one.
Yeah.
I had my Switch, I was happy. Switch 2 came out, I now really want a Steam Deck. And I think there's a correlation. I was not interested that much in a Steam Deck before the Switch 2 came out, but now I've seen the Switch 2, I've started looking into the Steam Deck, and I really want one now. And I am probably going to buy one by the end of this year.
Fair. No,
So the problem I have with the Switch 2 is it's made me want a Steam Deck more.
That's fair.
And
No,
I
I'm solely looking at the difference because the amount of like Pokemon and Zelda that I played on the Switch 1, just looking at the sheer, even just the ability to render the amount of Pokemon on the screen.
Well, do you know how much the Switch 2 is? Just to clarify.
good question. I want to say about 450, but don't quote me on that.
Right, so from the first, officially from Steam, a brand new LCD model of...
Not OLED.
So not OLED, of the Steam Deck is £349.
Yeah.
And not OLED, just like the Switch 2.
The OLED model of the Steam Deck with 500 gigabytes of storage is £479.
Yeah.
So a Steam Deck where your games go on sale every summer and winter and they cost maybe 20 quid.
Well, not AAAs, but
Yeah.
you're not going to be playing with AAAs on a Steam Deck.
No, well, no. You can some, but
Yeah.
you're not really
I
going to
just
be playing
want it 'cause I
AAAs on a Switch either, so...
It's when
This is
Pokemon Legends ZA is coming out soon, and
Yeah.
I want that.
This has
and I
somehow
want to
gone
play
from a
Zelda.
Switch
I want
conversation to a
Time
Steam
Adventure
Deck
Life
conversation.
2.
Yeah, sorry, it's just... My point generally with this is I'm not interested. You are...
Yeah, because
Would you like to tell us more now that I've stopped grumbling?
I'm just really because I want to get one soon because when Pokemon Legends ZA is coming out, I want to play that on like the most optimized version. Because
Yes.
if the Switch 2's come out already and they're releasing games on both platforms, that means, let's be honest, it's going to be optimized for the 2, which means that if they're releasing it on the 1, it's still going to be the game, but it's not going to be anywhere near as optimized. And Pokemon, Zelda, and Dragon Quest are like the 3 game series that I am in love with, and yeah, I just want to play them. That's
Well,
yeah.
where if you do end up getting a Switch 2, you'll be able to bring it on this
Do a
week I
review.
bought
Yeah.
and do a review and tell us.
Sounds
and,
like a plan.
And maybe by then I will also have a Steam Deck and we can do a comparison and see
Can
what
I
we think.
expense it as an Untitled?
We do not have a budget. But
Worth a try.
I quite like the idea of us bringing our competing devices on and having not just a biased display of each of us, because obviously we're going to prefer our own console for the reasons
Yeah.
we use it, but generally get an idea and see what people think. I think
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
This could be entertaining.
Watch this space.
Anyway, moving
Speaking
on.
of spaces to watch, yes. So a few months back, there was Apple essentially adds a backdoor to their end-to-end encryption to allow the government to access data with a court order. Now, we've spoken about how that's just technically impossible because it is impossible to make encryption that can only be decrypted by court order. That's just not how maths works. And so Apple, understandably, fought back against it, as they have done against previous requests in space. Now, one other thing that came out of this is that the UK government had moved to keep the details of their request from being made public, claiming national security concerns. A judge ruled against that. I think the quote from the ruling was that keeping the details of the hearing private would be the most fundamental interference with the principle of open justice. So if the government wants Apple to add backdoors to their encryption, they're going to have to explain their reasons in public and have him be critiqued for that.
Nice.
So it's I'm trying to be very careful with my wording here because this is a complex issue,
Yes.
but it is a win for transparency in the process, definitely. Speaking of other things that might be wins, though not necessarily for transparency in the process.
Oh Lord, they coming!
What am I talking about? Oh. HDMI. GPMI. Hold on, let me get my notes. I forgot I was up.
This is why.
Has anyone else read
people-
about this?
This is why we check the documents.
I did check the document. I was just having fun playing with the sound desk. I'm sorry. Right, GPMI. So, China, as this article states, has launched a HDMI and DisplayPort alternative called GPMI, boasting up to 192 gigabits per second bandwidth and 480 watts of power delivery.
That's quite beefy.
It is beefy. So, the way it was revealed, it's going to come in 2 different types. People are running everywhere, and this is...
Yeah, we've had like half the cast of this show running about here, there, and everywhere.
I'm just going to carry on. So, basically, this connector is going to come in 2 different variants. It's going to come in a Type B connector, which will be a proprietary connector, and a Type C connector, which will just be USB Type C.
Okay.
So, the Type B connector, and they haven't, as far as I'm aware, I haven't looked into this more recently, but I couldn't find anything more recent than the article I originally looked at, is the B connector, any design mock-ups I've seen of it are just a USB Type-C cable, but chunky, but just wider. Just
Wait,
a
so
wider
just-
Type-C. Imagine a Type-C, but just like twice as wide.
Lengthways.
Yeah, there's like more pins. That's about what I've seen of it. So, basically, the Type-C connector, basically using a USB Type-C, basically, they've claimed it can do up to 96 gigabits per second bandwidth with 240 watts.
Okay.
And then their Type B proprietary connector,
I don't like wasps.
the Type B proprietary connector can do 192 gigabits per second at 480 watts.
So
Power
you
delivery.
increase it by making it bigger.
Yeah, more pins.
More
equals
pins,
bigger.
more
But
stuff.
the thing that's really intriguing to me is, like, obviously the 192 gigabits, you can do, like, 8K uncompressed, which is more than anyone
Beefy.
really needs
Yeah.
for, like, anything in the modern day. But it's future-proofing, so, it's interesting. The only thing that gets me is the 480 watts of power delivery. You could theoretically power your monitor off of your display cable. So it could just be one cable in. I mean, you'd have to have a power supply that could support that coming off of whatever device you're using. Or some kind of dock that does it. But you can have one display cable into the monitor that does the entirety of the power for the monitor.
That'll definitely save on cable spaghetti.
Cable spaghetti.
Which
And
I'm
trust me, I
sure-
have cable spaghetti.
Yeah, I have a lot of cable spaghetti.
It's interesting. It's both. I mean, even the 96 on the Type C connector is over double what Thunderbolt 4 can do on the same
Yeah,
connector.
that's-
So
Even the small one's beefy as hell.
yeah, that's about all I have.
Yeah,
on that.
fair enough.
It
Do we
looks
have a next
interesting. It'll be
slide,
interesting to see
please?
if it comes to market. This is a Marx. It's SSL, so I assume this is a Marxism. Wait.
No, Marxism's a different thing.
No. Marxism is very different. Yes.
Is Marx even in shot?
Probably. Yes. So, for a little bit of background, SSL/TLS certificates. They are how your web browser verifies that when you go to google.com, you're going to google.com, not...
Bye, Emily.
I did realize the minor issue. Anyway, I'm gonna start that explanation.
Power through.
I'm gonna start that explanation again, so that when we clip it up for the short form content, it's like nothing ever happened. So SSL certificates are how your web browser verifies that when you go to google.com, you're going to google.com, and not whatever somebody who has intercepted your network traffic is pretending google.com is. Now, one of the ways that they are kept secure is that they have an expiration, and forcing you to renew them, and thus reprove that you control the website that you claim you do every certain amount of years or days. Previously, this used to be in the order of, I think the limit was either 3 or 5 years or so. Then a couple of years back, not actually too long ago, it brought down to a year, which was interesting because a lot of the times, because historically, the certificate renewal process was a rather drawn out one, requiring a lot of manual effort.
Oh.
Yes, and also costing a lot of money. And so you'd want to get one that's valid for as long as possible.
Yeah.
However, that all changed when it was proved that automating generating renewing certificates was not just possible, but doable at scale and better.
Okay.
And the other problem the whole ecosystem has is that once a certificate is issued, it is possible to revoke it, as in to say it should not have been issued if, for instance, the authority finds out that it was revoked under it was issued under false pretenses, or there's some technical deficiency, whether that makes it insecure. However, checking if a certificate is revoked for reasons that I don't really have time to go into is basically impossible. Or rather, there are two mechanisms of how to do it, and both of them are fundamentally broken to the point that Chrome doesn't even bother.
I see the issue.
So, if you can't do that, then what can you do? Well, you can reduce the lifetime of the certificate so that if one is misissued, then it's valid for a lot less time.
Yeah, it's not going to be an issue for 5 years.
It's only going to be, which is why it got reduced to 1 year, I think a couple of years back, the maximum, and it's now being reduced more and more and more until by 2029, the maximum lifetime of one will be just over a month. The problem is that on all the various systems that have no internet connection, like entirely air-gapped networks, unless you can't use one of the automated methods of proving that you control the site because the site is not exposed to the internet, but it still need a certificate because some browser features only work in what are called secure contexts.
Oh.
The solution to that is you roll your own. You generate your own certificates and you configure all the devices that are going to be connecting to this private.
Beautiful sound effect there.
See, the only reason this is going to become a pain for me, specifically me, is because URI servers currently aren't able to do auto SSL renewal, so we have to do it manually each time it runs out.
Well, you got 4 years to figure it out.
They've got 4 years to figure it out. I won't be there in 4 years.
No, they don't, because the maximum duration is going to be stair-stepped down until 2029. So it'll go down from a year to, I don't know if I have the actual...
Is it not already at like 6 months?
I think it's still at a year.
Oh, is that the maximum? I know...
Yes, issuers have the freedom to issue shorter ones. For example, Let's Encrypt issues ones that are only valid for 3 months.
That's it. Yeah,
Yes.
Let's Encrypt is the one.
But no,
we
what
use.
is happening is that the maximum of any certificate that could conceivably be valid will be
see.
reduced, and browsers will simply refuse to accept ones that are valid for longer than by the end of this.
47 days.
Yes.
That seems such an arbitrary.
Well, no,
number.
there's reasoning for it. I'm trying to.
Is it like the max integer of something or something?
No, it's closer. It's more like a month plus some amount of margin to get it replaced. I'm trying to
Okay.
find the exact reasoning here, but I fear
17 days
of
of margin?
I
I'd have expected it to be at least either 30 days or like a multiple of 7. So it's
well,
X
for
amount of
example,
weeks.
currently the maximum is not a year; it's 398 days. I'm trying to find the reasoning for it because it is actually well reasoned, and I cannot find it for the life of me.
Please hold while Marx finds the reasoning.
Do 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 do.
Furiously
Dum,
typing
dum,
on an
dum.
iPad.
Diddle-a-doo-doo-doo. I really hope whatever viewers we have is thoroughly enjoying Corey's a cappella scatting of the Untitled theme.
Found it. Yes.
Yay!
So, the reason it is 398 days, not 365 days, is because that is 13 months rather than 12.
Okay.
So your certificate is valid for a year, and then you have a month buffer to renew it, in case you forget to do it at exactly a year.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And also because things like leap years, leap seconds exist, so they're effectively not quite rounding up, but effectively rounding up just a bit.
Okay, just
So
giving
there's a bit
that
of buffer.
bit of extra margin.
Yes, because, for instance, leap years exist.
Fair enough.
And so a certificate that would be valid for 365 days would be valid for just shy of a year in a leap year.
Okay, but
That makes sense.
a leap year is an extra day, not an extra month.
Yeah, but then you have that extra month as a buffer for in case you couldn't renew it in exactly a month.
Yeah.
In
I can just
exactly a
imagine
year.
some company used to renew all their SSL certificates in January. Now they're doing it in like June because over the years they've just drifted slightly by waiting an extra month.
The idea is that you'd always renew it in January, but then if you can't get it renewed in January, then you can renew it in February.
Yeah.
Okay.
If like the one person whose job it was to renew it was on holiday in January. Although having said that, you should be using automation to not have that problem in the first place.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
if the
well.
automation breaks, then you have a month to fix it.
Anyway, we've been talking about this for
Yes,
a while.
anyway.
Can we move on?
What's next?
Yes.
I believe me and Jamie are talking about something. And Jamie that's an interesting way of getting to your seat, Jamie.
Welcome back, Jamie.
JB kicks Corey in the face and lies on his ThinkPad.
Not a ThinkPad.
Would
on
you
a
like
surface.
to see Jamie's rear end?
I've seen
That's
too
going
much
on
of Jamie's
TikTok.
rear end.
What, just the clip
Can
of
we
me?
please not short formify Jamie's rear? That's my microphone, you arsehole.
Have this one. That one's Emily's.
Use that microphone.
What?
We've all shifted left
Yeah,
slightly.
no, wait. Mark's has stolen one. There we go. This is correct.
My
now.
laptop... my laptop's...
My laptop charger as well.
I'm tangled in
Once
Marx's
again.
mic.
Technical professionals.
We do this for a job.
Oh, how long has Mark's been out of shot?
I moved that camera there, so they were. The one that's currently lent on a power
Okay,
supply.
so that brilliant short form where the content has been ruined because I wasn't in shot.
No, we're gonna show you.
Okay, so half of it was in shot.
So,
Anyway, Yes, we're here to talk about.
PewDiePie is now using Linux. So, this one was interesting. I do it on Linux. And it's been so... Oh, sorry, that's stuck in the... That was hitting my arm. Yeah, so this has been quite interesting to follow because it's the first sort of case of a large internet person. I was about to say YouTuber. Does he still do YouTube or is he just
Yeah, he
stream?
does YouTube.
He does still do YouTube. A large sort of gaming personality switching to Linux as their main daily driver on their gaming PC. And like... Because I've been arguing for gaming on Linux for a good while, and it's in a lot better place than it even was a year ago. Like,
Well,
it's
quite.
really making distance,
Especially-
and Valve is really
I was
doing
about to
a lot
say,
of work on it.
Steam Deck mention again.
I mean, yeah, the Steam Deck has done so much for gaming on Linux just because of how much Valve has pushed Proton. And to see, like, PewDiePie come out and sort of say, you should give it a try, it's doing good.
Yeah, well,
I hope it's going to be the sort of...
the
publicity
push it
bump
needs. I mean,
needs.
in his video, he said that he liked Linux because it wasn't babying users. You know, he gave the example of Windows going, "Oh, you want to play Candy Crush?" You know, that was literally
Yeah.
a direct quote from the video. A lack of bloatware as well. He said he wasn't a fan of that, and just the customization. He's riced out his system.
Yeah. I think it was Mint he's running on his
So
desktop.
Mint on his desktop, Arch on his laptop.
Arch on his laptop.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can support it. Mint was my first desktop. Well, no, actually Ubuntu was for a little, but Mint was the
I
first
think
one I really
Ubuntu's was
tricked out.
everyone's.
Yeah, and then I
first, let's be
realised I
honest.
can do a better distro.
Well, exactly.
But,
and I went
yeah,
to
honestly-
Arch. You went to.
Mint is probably... I went to Fedora, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say genuinely, Mint is probably the best... If you're a gamer coming from Windows, I would honestly argue Mint's probably the best distro to jump in on, because Cinnamon is customizable, but very good stock. Like, I feel like a lot of... We're just getting into the weeds on Linux distros now, sorry.
Well,
but
yeah, but
a lot of like sort of desktop environments just struggle with being good out of the box.
well, exactly. I mean, for all of this, the video PewDiePie uploaded, it's called "I Installed Linux, So Should You." Highly recommend watching it.
Yeah.
It's really
Go
good. Even if
watch
you're not
the video,
interested
honestly.
in Linux, it's PewDiePie, so you know it's good, as it were.
Oh,
So
hold on,
another
we've got-
video. Oh, we're being joined.
We've
We've
got
got
a
a
dog.
guest on the show. What?
Hello, what's your name? Do you have anything else to say?
It's got a lot to say. Anyway,
And how do you think this
we've
affects
just
the tech
peaked.
community as a whole?
Yeah, another thing PewDiePie did is he set up a Linux server, but unconventionally, he's using his Steam Deck as his Linux server.
Oh, I didn't read about
This is his latest video, uploaded maybe 2 days ago as we're recording this. But yeah, he is using his Steam Deck as a server. He still games on it, and it still runs server things in the background while he's gaming on it.
I mean, yeah.
It's one way to... I highly recommend watching his latest video. It's
He
really
also,
funny.
as a slight addendum to his whole Linux thing, is he's came out actively against Adobe as well.
Yeah, he called it a garbage company.
And he's actively boycotting it. Well, I mean, he runs Linux and everything, so he can't use it. but-
Yeah, but he also complained he was getting charged a cancellation fee as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, terrible.
That's just a slight addendum, but I thought that was interesting to add on when we were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Now, speaking of not trusting companies, Marks, I think you've
Yes, this is a whole thing
Oh.
that I'm going to summarize rather briefly. In short, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, got taken to court. App and iMessage are more popular than Instagram DMs, Facebook Messenger, and WhatsApp. And as part of this, they included in court filings some slides from Apple which had, I believe, both the actual percentage figures and relative charts of the popularity. Now, they redacted the actual figures in the slides, but they redacted them by just drawing a box over them in a PDF editor.
Yeah.
Meaning that the actual numbers were still visible there.
Meaning you could edit the PDF, remove the boxes.
And see that 88% of US iPhone owners had used the Messages app within
that's
a past
amazing.
average week. And now Apple has decided that they might not trust Meta with confidential information like this in future.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. There
Someone's
are
phone's ringing.
definitely better ways to try and redact a document than
Yes.
Yeah.
Bit of an L.
Yeah.
Speaking of a bit of an L, that was me switching to that Google Doc there. Also speaking of a bit of an L.
In general, yes. So last time we talked about, and a lot of you saw us talk about the Humane AI Pin, which has been shut down by HP after they acquired Humane,
And it had one useful feature remaining in it.
which was checking the battery life.
You can do more than just check the battery now?
can.
Wow.
And this is because a couple of very cool projects have taken it upon themselves to try and unbrick all the many thousands, nay
yes.
millions of Humane AI pins that are out there in the world. And so one of them is called Open Pin, and the other is Penumbra.
Penumbra OS.
One of them is Penumbra is more kind of dev kit focused. Open Pin is more about just trying to kind of restore the original functionality, so that if you bought a pin, you can at least still get the value out
You
of
can
it that you
still
initially
use
wanted.
it for what you bought it
Yeah,
for.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's what the person.
In Kotlin.
That is interesting, isn't it? Yes, it is.
The dog does not seem impressed by Kotlin.
No. No, it doesn't.
Moving on.
Yeah.
This is everybody's new favourite
Yes, it
star of the
is.
show.
Sorry,
we're
you've been
allowed to
upstaged
go.
by a dog.
To be
Oops.
fair, we've all been upstaged.
Yes, yes, we absolutely have.
Normally, changing presenter is a bit slicker than that.
When
Yes.
have we ever done things
So, yes, this is an interesting story in that there is an application which a guy, I believe he was from Japan, who years and years ago, like early 2000s, made a Git a project called WinRing, WinRing 0. And the essential idea was that normally, to be able to talk to hardware devices that aren't just like a USB device or whatever, you kind of need to write hardware drivers for that.
Yeah.
And that's normally quite difficult. And so this guy thought, oh yeah, this will be a great idea. I'll make a software project which allows you to arbitrarily make these things, and then you just include it in your projects and talk to whatever hardware in the computer you need it to, so that you can design your hardware widget thing.
Okay.
And so, many years have gone by, and now RGB is a thing. And, the people, they want to use all the fancy software to control the RGBs in their RAM sticks. And, a RAM stick doesn't have USB on it. So it's hardware with hardware registers and all that kind of stuff. The problem with making a project that arbitrarily allows you to access hardware, and then that's just like a kernel extension you can install, and it's signed by the guy who made it. So Windows goes, yes, this is fine. You can do a lot of bad stuff with that. And interestingly, the guy who actually made the project, about something within like a year, realized this is a bad idea. I now renounce this thing, and I think they may have archived the project. However, that didn't mean it just goes away, because the internet, nothing disappears on the internet.
No.
And so many different companies kept using it. And as you see, it's involved in... normally the big companies, probably Corsair and such, they're using their own driver. So they get that digitally signed by Microsoft that it can only talk to their hardware and that kind of thing. But there are certainly some vendors which are still using this code. And it's a bit of a, security flaw. Because there is nothing stopping any other application on the computer from also talking to the hardware in a generic way.
I see the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Microsoft have finally decided, well, all the big players have already made their own drivers, and we've kind of, forced them to. So now, even though this is a signed thing, we're just going to disable or we're going to revoke the signing certificate. So yeah, you can't install this thing anymore, and so anyone who has applications that use this thing can no longer control the RGB on their computers and all the rest of the other stuff that it works with.
Oof.
However, overall for security, I think security is better than RGB, and that is my hot take.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Next up, I love this one so much.
This is phenomenal.
So, we all know the famous anti-piracy ad campaign, you wouldn't steal a whatever.
Yes, which ironically was vaguely stolen.
Yes, so the headline here is, you wouldn't steal a font.
Are you sure about that?
Well, so someone at Sky looked into part of the official material. It was a PDF that was put out by the campaign.
Okay.
And had a look at the fonts in that document, and particularly the one from the famous visual.
The big
yeah,
main
exactly.
one from the advert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turned out that this was a font that was an original kind of version of, and there was a pirated copy of it with a different name.
Oh.
And guess which one the
Please
anti-piracy
tell me they used the
campaign was
pirated
using.
one.
Yes, they did.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
And
Beautiful.
this article has a brilliant interview with the creator of the font, saying, he's aware of this copy that's been around, but that the fact that this campaign, the whole point of which was don't pirate things, pirated his font.
That
was
is incredible, and I love it.
Nice.
Beautiful. One of the most deliciously ironic things I think I've heard in a while.
Well, next up, for an update on a story we've talked about before, we welcome back Emily.
Come on, sprint on. We have mics.
Now, a little while ago,
Right,
you
boss
told
man.
us about Microsoft's plans
Yes.
to
My favourite
kill
software.
in favour of Microsoft Teams.
What are
and
you sat on?
So I've just lent. Oh, that's a spoiler for later.
Here is a surprise tool that'll help us later.
And sadly, the worst has finally happened, hasn't it?
No, they've cruelly taken it from us, and now they've just brutally gone right. Switch to Microsoft Teams now.
Who
lost it in
voluntarily
May.
uses Teams?
I
We're,
know.
we're in mourning now.
Can we have a moment of silence for our fallen comrades? Skype.
Everyone, heads down. We don't have
Anyway.
time for a full silence.
No, I've been using Signal now with my family for like a
Yeah.
couple of months, and it's like a really good platform. It's got the benefits of sort of end-to-end encryption and that kind of thing. Because my family are not big fans of WhatsApp, so it's kind of quite good in terms of the privacy.
Okay,
That
fair.
you sort of not got it that everyone knows you're on WhatsApp.
Yeah, well, when you connect with someone, or when you open WhatsApp as a new user, it goes, "Hey, I'm using WhatsApp for all
Yeah,
your contacts."
yeah.
Whereas Signal doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And as you say, it means if your mum joins it, all her friends and whatnot won't suddenly rock up.
Yeah.
Or if I use it, someone from my primary school, however many years ago, will rock up and go, "Oh, I see you have WhatsApp." I go, "Who the f are you?"
Yeah.
So,
It's a big
it's
selling point.
exactly, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Effing chat for Skype.
Next up, Corey.
So, Ubuntu in 25.10 will be adopting sudo-rs by default instead of the default sudo. You want to take a guess what that means,
does that
Cameron?
mean?
I like your funny
Sudo-rs is basically a rewrite, a re-implementation of the sudo command, which if you use Linux, you'll be aware of. It's pretty much the main way of doing permission escalation. And basically, I want to do this thing as admin in Linux is the easiest way of saying it.
Yeah.
So, sudo-rs is a rewrite of that base sort of Linux command in Rust. And then Ubuntu is swapping from the original package to sudo-rs in 25.10, which will be their October release, I believe. Yeah, it's
Yep.
just because obviously we've talked about sort of Linux and Rust in the past on the show, and some Linux members dislike Rust in the kernel specifically. This isn't in the kernel. There's people walking behind me. But I don't know, I think this is an interesting look at where, because Ubuntu specifically is a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Point of where the general landscape is going. It seems
Yeah.
like,
General landscape.
yeah, thanks guys.
You really can't complain.
Well, I think
know I can't.
my main take on this is that the most interesting thing about it is the fact that sudo in its original incantation was simple, and then they just kept adding features for more and more random stuff, and so it became a bit spaghetti. And I guess this is kind of another one. And not only does Rust, it seems to be that the big Rust projects are always the ones that cause the most upheaval on like things that have been around forever, and like sudo. They're going like, oh yeah, we're just going to re-implement it in Rust. And so you've got the people that hate Rust, hating Rust, and you've got the people that hate replacing things, are angry that thing, and they'll have missed their crazy feature that lets them do something absolutely bonkers.
This is especially the point, because they do talk about this when they talk about the project, is they say it's not a blind re-implementation, as in they're taking a less is more approach, they say, and that some features of the original sudo may not be re-implemented if they only serve niche on what are considered outdated practices.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
well, the other thing is, it's Linux. If you want sudo, just install it. You don't need to use sudo-rs. You'll need to use it once
To install
to
sudo.
install sudo. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
You forget just how much people like getting angry about tiny little things.
I think also this is the thing, I never sent an article, so Cameron's never sent in a doc, but I'll jump on it while we're talking about defaults in 25.10. Is in, I believe it's 25.10 as well, Ubuntu is finally getting rid of Xorg as well. Xorg's finally getting dropped by Ubuntu and they're moving to...
Fully to Wayland.
Fully to Wayland.
Oh, heck.
Heck. I mean, in
Which
theory,
probably means nothing to a lot of people watching, but
Including me.
Means nothing to me. Well, I did slightly, but
does
not
that mean the
not
next
much.
time I upgrade my computer at work, it's going to be completely bricked?
Yeah,
Possibly.
probably.
Oh no, actually, because we're just going to get rid of the computer. The problem solved.
Can I have it when you're done?
I'm afraid, no,
Security policy says no.
no,
Oh.
no.
F.
Oh well, anyways.
Next
Shall we move
up,
on?
Yeah, I love a text encoding bug, and this is a really good one. So this bug specifically prevents you sending a voice message in iMessage to tell someone about Dave & Buster's. Now, it's not just Dave & Buster's. This would work for Marks & Spencer's or something like that. It's to do with the ampersand in the name. Now, when you dictate a voice message, in general, if you say "and," it will come out as "and." However, Apple's software has special cases for brand names that have an ampersand in them.
Oh,
to
so
make
it
sure
can
the ampersand is
register
correctly.
the...
Yeah.
So it gets the name
It realizes
correct.
you're saying a brand name, fills in the brand name, and then...
Yeah.
The
And then
real Apple intelligence features.
to simplify, it goes, okay, it spits it out with an ampersand for, this is for transcribing the voice message.
I see.
And then it goes, wait a second, there shouldn't be an ampersand here because if we say "and," it should spell it out. It's just not expecting an ampersand there.
And just gets very confused.
Yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Quality.
Specific random bugs are my favourite.
Love them.
Yes, Google's updated their logo. The first time this says in 10 years. God, has it been that long since they went to the weird blocky colours?
God, has it?
Well, I mean, the last time I was in the Google office, it'd been several years since they changed it.
Sorry, you're just going to drop
Sorry,
that
you
sentence.
just dropped
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
Extract
back
more.
up.
For some reason, it's themed like a beach, and all the they've got like little meeting cubbies that are all like beach huts.
When were you
Why
in
were
the
you in
Google
the
office?
For a meeting that may or may not have been with my employer, and was a complete waste of time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
But yes,
Casually dropping.
Google hadn't updated the branding in their own office at the point that I was there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so they went from, obviously, everyone recognises the Google logo with the block colours.
Yeah.
Someone's found the gradient tool.
Oh.
And
Oh,
it's
have they
just,
just-
they've just
Nah,
gradient.
they've just done
You can't
like
really
the-
see it in the slides as well, but
Oh.
I think
They've
it's
done-
a cycle, isn't it, between sort of vector block colours
And gradients.
in
Yeah.
2000.
They just got it's always got to be smoother. No matter what you do, it's always got to be smoother. At some point, they'll they'll blur the edges.
oh, there we go. There's the.
I'm sure.
Oh, thanks.
Right above
Thanks.
us.
Welcome to the Wikipedia page for Google logo.
Oh, so
Yes.
it's not even a
They've
full
just got-
gradient. They've
No,
literally
they've just
got a
gradiented the
blur
edges.
tool
They've got the airbrush tool and
They've
went over
just
the
gone,
edges.
okay, cool, the Procreate smudge, and gone, right, sure. These, like,
Google
few
Procreate.
that's, yeah.
I
Really
like it.
good innovation,
I'm sure
guys.
Maybe they
money
used
went into
Picasa.
it.
Oh wait, they killed that product too.
Who's
Oh yes, this one is me. So Synology, people who make like storage appliances, they're normally user-friendly. They've decided that, we're going to go even more consumer-orientated and, right to repair nonsense and all that stuff. Because now they've found an opportunity to make more money. And the way of doing that is they are now going to rebrand someone's drives, put their own name on it, and then force you to use them in their new products.
I'm sorry, what?
So now they have, Synology branded hard drives. I cannot remember who makes them. It might be Toshiba.
Is it SanDisk? I think I heard
SanDisk is WD.
Maybe it's, it was something with S. Maybe it's for some reason I have vague memories of being someone with an S. I'm not entirely sure. It won't be Samsung.
No, they were rebranded. But anyway, yes.
Sorry, you've just got Jamie sneaking behind you.
Oh, Haribo delivery. Yes, please. Why, thank you. I'm supposed to be talking.
Important interlude into the show, everybody.
Yes.
The talent needs Haribo. And Jamie's just stacked it, everybody.
So the advertising for this new thing, so they brought out new models, and they bring out models every year and a half or so. And these ones require you to use their drives. And they were like, but it's for specific performance and raid handling and shock resistance and whatever else they said. And they were like, okay. So someone managed to outsmart them in figuring out that if you update the firmware of a Synology device into the new version, those drives do not have any special... There's nothing special with them. They managed to, figure it out, reverse it, so that they could have Synology running with those drives, and it wouldn't care, or it wouldn't put any drive in. So it's just lies. It's just forcing you to buy the specific drives that they
Was
now
it like
brand.
specifically if you plug the drives, if you build the array like in an old version of the firmware, then update the firmware, it just accepts those drives on the new version of the firmware.
I think
So you can get around it by putting them in an old NAS, getting Synology to recognize them, then moving them to the new NAS, and it just...
Yes.
That would require you having... That would require you having a new an
or
old
to be able
NAS,
to backdate the firmware.
Well, yeah, so
Wow.
it's to say, yes, that feels familiar in that if you set up a RAID with existing disks that were previously in previous products not protected in any way, if you then put those into one of these new Synology NASs,
It
accepts them. And it will update to the latest version of the RAID and all that stuff. So and it still allows all the features that they claim are required
I guess
by
kind
the
of
new
makes
drives.
sense, because they would have a lot more backlash if they then update the firmware and killed everyone's RAID arrays.
Yeah, if you couldn't resolve, like if your NAS failed and you needed to put those drives into a new one and you couldn't load it because they're not Synology drives, then that would be even more of a mess. So overall, it's a marketing mess rather than a And of course, they're more expensive. The drives are a bit more expensive. Disappointing.
Anyway.
Next
slide, please. There we go.
Homebrew Channel has been archived. Thanks, Jamie. So, the Homebrew Channel has ceased development, which the Homebrew Channel, for those who don't know, is pretty much the software you use to homebrew and hack a Wii console. And also the GameCube.
Beauty.
Yeah, so it's ceased development. So this came interestingly because there hadn't been any real development on it in the past couple of years, anyways. But they put out the sort of maintainers put out a statement that basically it was found that some underlying sort of essential libraries for this software used stolen Nintendo code, like proprietary Nintendo code, specifically the library libogc, which is literally like lib GameCube. It's for interfacing with the GameCube and the Wii. Originally, apparently a while ago, like it's been known for a little while that it used code from a decompiled Nintendo SDK. But they thought it wasn't significant parts of the code. They sort of kept it under wraps, and they've said we shouldn't have, but they did keep it under wraps and kept going. But then, sort of more recently, I found out that sort of even the main core bits of the program were stolen from another open source project without attribution.
Oof.
So at that point, they saw it fit to just completely cease development on the project, archive it.
I mean, it had a good run because the Nintendo Wii came out in 2006.
Something like that, 2005, 6.
Yeah, I'm sure they pretty much perfected whatever the Wii can do.
Yeah, like
in
that's
that
what I'm saying. I
time.
hadn't really seen much development in the past couple of years anyway, so this was an interesting one, especially because like it apparently been mostly public knowledge that they'd use still in Nintendo code at this point as well. So
It's interesting, yeah, with these kind of game-related things that some of the time it's not that the code is stolen, but it's it's actually the code is like the copyright, and
Yeah.
they'll go, well, your code is in this thing, and therefore we copyright sue you out of existence.
yeah,
And sometimes Nintendo are very well known for doing that.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
yeah. The quote from the article that I thought was great, not the article, sorry, the literally the GitHub readme says the Wii homebrew community was built on top of a pile of lies and copyright infringement. Is the quote, which is
Wow.
Oh.
so someone's having a guilt trip. It feels a bit like they're like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
Basically, yeah. They said that for this reason we consider it impossible to legally and legitimately compile the software at this point and cannot encourage any further development. Is the line they take,
Okay.
which is kind of fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. For
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll still be able to download it. If not,
Yeah, it's still up on GitHub. It's archived. But
Yeah.
the code still exists.
Oh, it's an
You
archive, so no one's going to push to it, but like it's still
you can
there.
still
Yeah.
do it. Someone could fork it if they really wanted to, but like,
Exactly.
Anyway, what's next?
what is next?
Well, next is
this one.
Volvo's EX90. It has a LiDAR sensor.
Yeah.
Corey, for people that don't know, what is LiDAR?
It's like radar, but with lasers.
That actually sums it up very concisely.
That's what the DAR is, and the lie is for lasers.
Well, yeah.
Like light radar.
Would you like to
basically.
tell us the problem people have been having with their phones with this?
Well, you see, the thing with lasers is they are very strong, very bright light, basically.
very directed.
Very directed, very bright, very pinpoint light.
Wait, it's light? Always has been.
Anyways, so
Did you not pay
The
attention
issue
in
is-
literally any of the lasers lectures?
It was a
we were in?
meme.
But
It
also,
was
this is
cringy,
you,
but it was meme.
you have a physics degree. Anyways,
somehow.
so
Laser stands for
Go on.
lasers
I will wait.
are very cool. Anyway, sorry. Tell
You
us
missed
how
the
they
E.
how they
No, wait,
yeah.
hang on.
this high power. Why? What does it
lasers
cause?
are basically high-powered light in a very simple form. Camera sensors are built to be sensitive to light and pick up light. When you shine light tens of times more powerful than this camera sensor is meant to pick up onto it,
You might see where this is going.
In very.
it tends to
specific-
create little sort of basically it burns out the little bit of
Yeah.
that,
In fact, on the top of this of the slide we've got here, you'll see the little pink dots and little pink purple dots up above us
Yeah.
on screen.
on screen.
And that's what we're on about. Those little things would appear in people's cameras.
Yeah.
Which is
Also,
So,
like when you
less
kinda
than I
look at
do.
the sun and blink, and
yeah, it's like when you look at the
Stop
sun and blink,
looking at the sun.
no, actually,
don't do
that
it
is no, but that's
deliberately.
a very good example. It's pretty much like looking at the sun and when you see those dots, but permanent and in a camera.
Did you just look at the sun?
And
I refuse to answer that question.
basically, so this was the whole thing. Like, if you go to like a concert or something that has like laser effects, don't point your camera at them because it can break the sensor. So a lidar sensor just shoots out a load of lasers to basically measure the distance between things to figure out where things are, a bit like radar. The problem is if you put that on top of a car, then someone tries to take a photo of that car, it will
Oops, you've
permanently
got a
damage
dead
their
spot.
phone's camera sensor.
Oh,
How does
wonderful.
the human eye not get killed by that?
Because
think
your
it just-
human eye is less sensitive to light. Well, in a specific way.
UV, yeah, right, yeah.
I believe it's frequency dependent. I don't
Well,
hold
yeah, I
me to
think
that.
the
That
eye
is my
has, like,
guess.
I think like if you shine a laser directly into your eye for an extended period of time, yeah, it probably will
Well, yeah,
damage
a
it.
lot
That's
of
why all the light,
a
the
lot of
lasers and the
lasers
physics
you're
of
not
it.
meant to shine in your eye. Visible ones especially.
Yeah.
But if it's an invisible, which lidar would be, then
So
Yeah.
in theory, if you had a lower power laser for this lidar, would that be a safer alternative? Or
Potentially,
is
but I
not
don't think it would
fixable?
function as well. Like I think these are
Yeah.
already at like the lowest power they can be to
I was because these.
function.
What is the purpose of the lidar sensor? Do we know?
It's for like self-driving and stuff. It's for mapping out spaces.
Right. So they'll
And telling
wanna
if there's a
go-
car in front of you, so you can.
Yeah, I
Stop
mean,
the car.
what's the kind of distance? I guess with this powerful one, it's probably several car lengths maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, of course, also the more lidar laser output you put out, the more of it's going to come back.
Well, quite,
And
yeah. So I
compared
guess,
to the sun being also a big deadly laser.
The sun is a deadly
yeah, I guess you just have to
laser.
fight the sun. That's, yeah.
So it has to be powerful enough and distinguishable enough.
You know,
Yeah.
so don't point your camera, your phone, because I think also the issue is it's at the top of the car. Like I feel like a lot of cars that have lidar put them sort of like at the bottom and
Well,
around the
yeah.
side.
It's usually kind of at feet level where you're not really going to
Yeah.
point your camera.
I wonder
mean-
if the only reason why we haven't seen this in other cars yet is because they don't have it on while it's not like driving around.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Also, for like the only other real cars I can think of that have had lidar are like Teslas, and they've moved towards optical cameras for recognition.
Yeah,
recently,
that's been interesting.
which hasn't been. That's a whole addendum, but that has
Yeah.
not been a successful pursuit. Lidar's significantly better for.
Especially when it comes to breaking your phone, it would turn
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's next?
What is next?
So we're going to talk a bit about
Marks?
tail scale. Now, I believe
Here are some marks we
Jamie
prepared
Patchett.
Actually, I
earlier.
believe
Extensions.
everyone here, apart from perhaps Dizzy, uses tail scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Tailscale is their sort of sales pitch is it's a VPN but done properly. As in, you install it on all of your devices, your phone, your laptop, your servers, as
You're
you
running the
may
Raspberry
have
Pi,
them.
you hide somewhere.
And what they do is create a mesh network where all of the devices within what they call the Tailnet can talk to each other securely wherever they may be in the world, including things like if you're on a network with some restrictive firewalls or IP address nonsense, it will try to find a way around it.
A quick example of this is, Emily, you have a computer, quite a beefy computer at home.
Yes.
That you tend to run specific software that you've got licensed and whatnot.
I do, yes.
Yeah, and
I like to remote into
you
it.
like to remote into
Even
it.
if I'm sat downstairs, I remote into my PC upstairs, particularly for
respect
For
that.
Max MSP, it is
Yeah.
perfect. Like, there's a bit of a delay, but
wow.
it's worth it. You
But-
know,
but
for
an
It saves the
for
effort.
comfort.
Well,
yeah.
right, yeah. But an example of, like, say you weren't in that house, you were on a totally different network. Say, hypothetically, my house, right? You wanted
Hypothetically.
and you wanted to remote in to your computer. A good way. So everyone's kind of heard of VNC, and if you haven't, it's remote desktop. Let's not go any further. But what it allows you to do is basically take the Tailscale IP of your PC once
Yeah.
Tailscale's installed on it, patch it directly into your VNC connector, and bam, you're on your computer. No port forwarding nonsense. No making sure it's all secure. It's just direct IP off it goes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't it doesn't like all your traffic doesn't go through that. It's only the specific things go to the specific places they need to.
Exactly, yeah. So it's not like you're going to get throttled by all your traffic going through it. It's quite handy.
But as you know, and this is generally called zero trust.
That's a proper industry term for this.
Yes, and now we have a reason for why it's even more zero trust than usual.
Whoa. Well, so the way that Tailscale does authentication is by using either Google, GitHub, or Microsoft accounts and such. And it has what they call either single user or multi-user tailnets, where a single user tailnet is just you and your devices, while a multi-user tailnet is intended for either like groups or companies. So like everyone in the company is all part of one tailnet and have access to the company resources that they need to do. Now, for things like corporate Google or Microsoft accounts, deciding which tailnet a user should belong to is fairly easy because you just look at the domain of the corporate account. But for things like if somebody signing in with Gmail, it's a little bit more difficult because, obviously you shouldn't put everyone who has an @gmail.com email in the same tailnet. That would be incredibly silly. No. Everyone who uses Gmail should have a single user tailnet. But you can create a Google account for an email of any domain, not necessarily @gmail.com, which means, in principle, you can sign into Tailscale using that Google account for any domain. And the problem there is that if you have like some other shared email provider, like the example used in the user that most recently uncovered this was a Polish one at posta.pl, that if Tailscale don't know that it's one that anyone can sign up to and they make a Google account on, then other people could join. Then they wouldn't know to make that a single-use tailnet. Thus, other people could join your tailnet, which is
if you just happen to have it with the same
domain. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really bad.
Even
That's not ideal.
that's not good.
I believe the phrase you're looking for is not ideal.
I was about to say,
Did
not
we find
ideal.
out whether that was on by default?
Well, what we found out is that it was a feature, but implemented slightly wrong. So
Is it a bug or is it a feature?
it was a bug that they were aware of and had plans to fix, but this becoming more public ended up accelerating those plans.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Surely it should have been quite public in the first place.
Well, here's the thing. It's difficult to know whether just any domain is one that anyone can sign up to, or one that, for example, if I own markspottleclubs.me, and if I created a Google account on it, then if somebody else had an account on that, then presumably they'd want to be associated with me somehow. In my case, it's a bit moot because I use Workspace, but anyway, yes. But the classic example being not everyone with a Gmail account should be on the same tailnet.
Yeah.
But it's just coming up with that list of what's what is really, really difficult. And they've got a few plans on how they're going to sort this out. They're going to proactively flag more shared domains that don't have tailnets established already as ones that should become single user should somebody sign up with them. And then for ones that they think might be a shared domain but they're not certain, they're going to reach out to the admins. Then in future, they're going to mark any new domain coming from Google or Microsoft as shared if it hasn't come from Google Workspace or Microsoft Entra, which are their corporate identity providers, where in order to have an account on it, you need to prove that you control the domain, and presumably you can control who has accounts and who doesn't. And yeah, there's various other things that they're going to talk about. Our producer will put their security bulletin for this in the show notes. But yeah, that was not on. It looks scarier than it probably is, in that it's a specific category of users that would have been affected. But if you were one of them, it could be terrifying, and that somebody you don't know just has access to your computer now.
Yeah.
Speaking of other things that are terrifying, where do I even start with this one?
Yeah, but now they're not in the right order. Okay. Oh wow! Should we all shift one along?
This is really, really good technical planning here.
Excellent stuff.
So, Unbound were spoiler alert, a company that was essentially, what if Kickstarter was specifically a book publisher? In that they were a crowdfunding platform for books where people could sign up and back your book and get copies once it's shipped and rewards and such. And then once the book was funded, they became the publisher for it and would handle things like distributing the book to wholesale bookshops.
Okay.
Now it was quite attractive because it was a platform for folks who maybe would struggle to pitch their book to traditional publishers, that they could crowdfund it instead and then get their book published if it was popular enough.
That's actually really cool. I like that.
Yes.
It was cool.
Yes, it was. Then they had a bit of a boo-boo,
Oh, here we go.
ran out of money.
That
Terrible
is-
problem.
Yeah.
They also made, allegedly, I'm not quite sure if this is on the public record, but there are certainly sources pointing to it, that allegedly what they did, which was really, really bad, and if you are starting a business like this, you should never do, is they commingled the money that they had for authors' royalty payments with the money that they had to run the company.
That,
In other words,
that is a boo-boo.
in other words, they were spending money that they owed to authors.
They were spending money that wasn't theirs.
Yes. And so when they went bankrupt, those authors were left uncertain as to whether they're ever going to get paid for their books. So when Unbound went to administration, some of the people behind it created a successor company, Boundless, who...
Did they literally just
Hang on,
get,
Unbound,
did they just find a
Boundless.
thesaurus and go, that'll do.
That one.
And then when this all went down, I don't know if I have one of the sources from this because it was early. It was late last year, early this year that Unbound initially went bankrupt. Is that they left authors uncertain as to whether they're going to actually be paid. Let me see if I can track this down. Talk amongst yourselves.
No.
Make us.
Basically, less than ideal, I think, is the impression we're getting.
Yeah, I don't plan on publishing a book now for a little
No,
while.
I think I'll have to hold on my autobiography.
God damn it.
Is autobiography the one you write?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to hold off on my autobiography.
But yes. So early. Actually, no. Yeah, it was in March that they filed for bankruptcy and Boundless was created. Now, in an email sent to authors on Unbound, Boundless, it's becoming a little bit confusing now.
Yep.
They described the money that they owed to authors for the unpaid royalties as voluntary goodwill payments.
Yeah, they claimed in the email that they had
That's the
no
quote.
legal requirement to pay
To
the
pay
authors.
the debt, to pay the money that Unbound owned them because they're legally a new company. And so any money that authors would get from them was entirely from the goodness of their
They
hearts.
try to
Got it.
create a loophole and
Now, how legal for this has been is somewhat up for debate, and several authors who published on Unbound have said that they are lawyering up because
Yeah, fair.
It's an interesting one.
It's an incredibly difficult situation. One author who is YouTuber Nerdcubed, who has now published 2 books on Unbound, said that he is owed £40,000.
So not a small amount.
That's not insignificant.
That's a
and
year's
even for
salary
authors,
for someone well paid.
and even for authors who are owed less, when you think about it, if you're owed something like £5,000, that's still a lot of money.
Well, it is
Yeah.
still a
that
lot
you
of
would
money.
be putting aside for things like living,
Yeah.
paying your mortgage.
Just living.
Yeah.
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 Mr. Hardcastle, I went into that. Mr. Nerdcubed said that when Unbound went into administration, he received a payment plan for the money that the previous company owed him, which said that they owed him less than £4,000 for a book which, in the pre-order phase, had raised £250,000.
well, that's
The maths
certainly
ain't
not
mathsing.
insignificant.
That's like a. Let's
Then
do some
he
quick
was-
maths here. 10%.
Yes, then he was told by Unbound's previous CEO that figure was wrong and he'd get an updated payment plan. He never did. He was also told that they'd have advances on their way to him. They never arrived. He then discovered when his latest book was published, which it had sold enough copies to be on the Sunday Times bestseller list, but due to a cock-up at Unbound with how they calculated figures, it didn't make it onto the list. And
Excellent.
being on the bestseller list is a kind of a big deal for an author.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. So
That's a royal cock-up.
That is quite bad.
And there's stories from other authors who have been affected by it, who have told similar stories of less than competence on the part of Unbound/Boundless. Now whether this was actually legal is going to go through presumably the courts as the authors sue for the money that they are owed.
Yes.
But one thing that was called out in the liquidation proposal of Unbound is where's the quote? About how they're going to be reducing their costs, streamlining an infrastructure. We're also undertaking new areas of business that require no funds to implement, such as starting to increase our rights income from book to video gaming by leveraging our contacts in the gaming industry, and potentially creating new content based on our intellectual property using inexpensive artificial intelligence platforms.
Right.
In other words, they're going into the AI slot business.
Oh,
Excellent. We needed
Fuck's
more of
sake.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is particularly dicey because as an author,
Yeah. This is like one of the many reasons that I hate generative AI. It exists solely as art theft.
Yeah,
be it
yeah. It's
words
just a
or
compilation
images.
of people's
It's-
work, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's stealing actual
Without
people's
having
art
to cite where it's from.
and then
Well,
just
quite, yeah.
Yeah.
recreating it shittier
Yeah.
and being done with it.
So yeah, it's a really, really difficult situation because, you know, being owed £40,000 and then being told that you may not ever actually get it, or you may get 10% of it, that's
Yeah.
gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, I would not be happy.
It's
Yeah.
not ideal, but now for some uplifting news.
Yes, something
I'm a
a
big-
little bit of a lighter note.
I'm a big fan of this story. I think
Yes.
it's very amusing. Mark, would you like to tell us?
Yes. I'll try to keep this one brief. Southwestern Railway.
Speaking of trains, enjoy the plushy LNER. Continue.
Yes, not Southwestern Railway.
No,
No,
but it's a good
That train company was nationalised, I think, last month as we record this.
Based.
But the
Because
first,
we're in Britain.
and because there were engineering works on the line on the morning that they became nationalised, the first train run by newly nationalised Southwestern Railway was a rail replacement bus service.
Oh, that's
So the
incredible.
first Southwestern nationalised train was a bus.
That's beautiful.
Sorry, no, that was the first one that ran. The first one actually was cancelled.
British
So
trains,
cancelled.
everybody.
Replacement bus.
To hear it.
Excellent.
I'm trying to find
surprised?
when the first actual train that they ran. No, I think one of their trains was actually in motion as they became nationalised.
Oh.
But the first one to leave was
Yes.
First one to actually leave
Now-
Waterloo.
Yes.
another-
Something else rather amusing.
Well, yeah, and you know, once again, classic UK moment.
Love a good
Poundland.
UK moment.
You all know it. You all know the shop, Poundland.
Banging
you go in
shop,
there.
love
Most
it.
things are more than £1 now, which I hate.
Yeah, it's like £1.50, and I'm like, no.
£5 teddy bear.
Well,
No,
exactly.
don't let him pound.
But Mark's.
But you know what was?
Well, yeah,
you know what cost
was?
£1?
You know what does cost £1?
Matthew, what cost £1?
Poundland, apparently.
Apparently, Poundland is worth £1.
Which is interesting because most of the stuff nowadays in Poundland is more than £1 anyway.
That's
So
what we were just saying. It's
You
crazy.
sold the company for less than a drink in the shop.
I'm sure that
Now,
they've just liquidated the stocks and
We have
shares.
to specify that there is various legal shenanigans with how companies are bought and sold and something assets, something, but that headline up there
It's
is
phenomenal.
It's great.
absolutely beautiful.
Basically, they were struggling, and owners have changed and that kind of thing. That's pretty much all you need to know. There are going to be a lot of shops closing, a lot of jobs lost.
Yeah, they've been bought out by a generic company with a someone and someone's name.
Excellent, good to hear.
Sounds very lawyery to me.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
But
Investment
it gave us a phenomenal
company,
headline.
Well, exactly, and
Just like actually, is it Woolworths? No, W.H. Smith's got
Yeah.
rebranded to some other random people's name.
Yeah, it's, I don't know,
Um,
like J.G. Woods or whatever. It's not that,
Yeah.
but it's that level of
It's
the
a
same.
made-up people.
T.G.
T.G.
Jones.
Jones.
apparently, or something like that. Now, Emily, earlier you were telling us you like to use Signal.
Yeah.
And I'm right in saying that Signal, it uses usernames as opposed to your mobile number.
Yeah.
Cameron, would you like to sit the other side of Matt Strat? And now what we're going to do is hand our mics around like this.
I want a microphone.
What a
In a
flawless
second.
system
But
we have
just
devised here.
quickly. So yeah, it uses usernames, right?
Yes.
And we know how kind of WhatsApp is based on the open source stuff that Signal runs on.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was waiting for a citation from Marx, but they gave in. Cameron, would you like to tell us about our next story?
So there's some code from an upcoming beta version of WhatsApp that suggests that they are about to launch usernames. So from now on, when someone adds you to a WhatsApp group chat, by default, it will show a username rather than your phone number.
Well, not yet. They haven't rolled it out.
Well, yeah, when it rolls out. And the other piece of WhatsApp news, this has happened, is WhatsApp for iPad has finally, after many, many years, 15 years of the iPad being a platform,
Yeah.
Well, we've got a calculator for iPad.
and now we have
Finally.
WhatsApp.
We're getting everything on the iPad.
yeah.
It's brilliant. Marx is just installing it now.
Wonderful.
WhatsApp Messenger, not to be confused with multi-messenger for WhatsApp or Messenger Duo for WhatsApp, because the iPad's Apple Store has App Store words have good curation.
I
Those
believe
sure were words, buddy.
Meta have been threatening to do Instagram for iPad next, which, yes,
Oh
it's
yeah,
still
but,
just the phone version blown
It's
up
just the phone
right
version,
now
but bigger,
for one
isn't
of the
it?
yeah,
biggest.
but Instagram is a lean team. They said. Do you know how many people are in said lean team?
Go on.
It's about 20,000.
What?
That's not very lean.
That's like there are 20,000 people apparently working in
Seriously?
Instagram, and
I
yet,
presume that involves like content moderators and such.
well, you'd hope so because they're obviously not developers. Because the app only gets updated like a couple times a year with anything meaningful.
I'm still waiting for Blue Sky on iPads.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
Though-
is that?
Although I'm
oh.
sure there must be clients. by
Yes,
now.
there are third-party apps like
Yeah.
Skeet is the Blue Sky update available. No, it still works. It still works.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
the
The thing is, though, with Blue Sky being in theory the savior of Twitter, does it actually let you use it on the web?
Yeah.
yeah?
Because unlike everything else that goes like, oh, you've seen this one thing that you got linked to, no more links for you. Everything is a download the app button. Hopefully, Blue Sky on an iPad maybe actually works.
It does.
Good.
Speaking of, I did not come up with a segue for that one.
Good job.
Slacking ranks.
Speaking of more things that are happening in court, OpenAI are in a little bit of legal hot water over author's copyright, which is a whole story in and of itself. But one thing that has come out of this is that a court has ordered to preserve all ChatGPT conversation logs, including deleted ones and ones that come through the API, which are logged as sensitive for businesses.
Okay.
And OpenAI obviously disagrees with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of data. It's,
Yeah,
Well,
I'm just trying to find. Yeah,
Hopefully that'll make less people want to use it.
I hope. Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
The
yeah.
fewer people using generative AI, the better in my books.
what was the quote? Is that so? This impacts users of ChatGPT Free, Plus, and Pro, and the OpenAI API. It does not impact ChatGPT Enterprise or ChatGPT Education.
I don't know what these things mean.
Various different amounts of money you can pay OpenAI,
Fair enough.
and they are still going. And they are still fighting the order. I can't. I think there may have been an update, but it was a little bit too recent for me to work it into my notes. But watch this space.
I think the thing is, although I agree, we don't want people to be using generative AI. The reality is, people do, and so this is a concern. If people are going to, I'd rather that those sensitive conversations were,
Weren't and
Yeah.
didn't have the potential. Bearing in mind that the reason they're being preserved is that they could potentially be brought into the court case, which means they might become part of the public record.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Now,
okay.
I would hope that the court is smart enough to go through and have all the records be presented under seal and only publishing the ones that are actually relevant to the court case. But still, the fact that that data is there
Yeah.
is in and of itself a concern for people.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are much less of a concern, there are now 1 billion repositories on GitHub, and
That's a lot.
what was the 1 billionth one? It's called shit.
Quality. And
I love
how
it.
often is
What
a
is it?
project created on GitHub? And is it like, presumably someone made a program to watch out, ready?
Well,
To
the
make-
interesting thing is that issue they have a screenshot there was filed by a GitHub engineer. So presumably that they noticed that the project ID was coming close to 1 billion, or would have noticed when it passed it. And
I
then they
just
looked at
wondered-
what repository number 1 billion was, and it's called shit.
Well,
I just
yeah.
wonder
but
how many repos are called shit.
I was wondering if someone was watching, ready to create that project.
probably.
As the 1 billionth one.
Oh, probably.
Knowing the kind of people that are interested in GitHub statistics, it wouldn't surprise me. And I think that's brilliant.
And
That's
of
a
course
lovely milestone.
the issue has been spammed with 1,100 comments, mostly commenting on shit.
Based. Wonderful. What's
Giving
next?
the,
Speaking of shit,
Android.
What a segue.
Hot take. But we don't have many details on this yet. But it's very intriguing news. Apple are working to support Android as a supported language for Swift. So they formed an Android working group within the Swift organization.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Swift, for those that don't know, is kind of the modern programming language for native development for all Apple's platforms. What are our thoughts on them bringing it to Android?
well, the interesting thing is that the majority of Android apps now are written in either Java or Kotlin, with some native functionality. presumably what they do is they'd compile Swift code to native code and then have some kind of minimal Java shim to have it run as an Android app, but then the bulk of the business logic happens in the Swift code. At least that's how I would implement it, but there may be a better way that I haven't thought of.
I mean, how would this work in terms of Apple's kind of standard UI elements?
Yeah, so this is what I was
'Cause
going to come on
that's kind
to.
of built into Xcode.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't
there's
it?
this separate library called Swift UI for like declarative UI development, and there's no word on that coming to Android yet. I
Yeah.
suspect it probably never will because they won't want to make it that easy if you've to develop for both platforms.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, the thing is that Swift is a platform driven by Apple, but it is an open source project.
Yeah.
So it is entirely possible that other folks will make Swift UI work
That's
on
true.
Android.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially because Android has its Swift UI alike called Jetpack Compose. So I wonder if it would bind to that. But
Interesting.
I doubt it would because Jetpack Compose is very Kotlin specific, from my knowledge.
Anyway, early days for this. It will presumably take a while before it's actually running on Android devices. But
And I'm sure when it
It's
does,
interesting.
we'll be
Yeah.
talking about it.
No.
They'll figure out some way of making it less appealing. Sure.
Speaking of less appealing, the blue screen of death is the latest thing. Our latest fallen soldier. It is being replaced by the black screen of death in the next Windows update.
I mean, at least you can still call it a B-sod,
Yeah, they've maintained that,
but it's
which
still
is
tragic.
something. It's losing the smiley face as well. It's just a kind of boring. Oh, here
I
comes
love
Corey.
the smiley face and the sad face. It's like, oh no, you fucked up your computer. Here's a sad emoji.
So this pissed me off, right? So
Bye, Marks.
there is. So they claim they did it so that they can add more information to the screen. They're adding the error code and what program actually caused it.
Which is true. They did do that.
Which they'll do it.
Yes.
There is
still do that
no
with a
reason it
background.
can't still be blue.
Yeah. Like,
Or have a
you
sad
can't-
face.
Or have a sad face.
Yeah.
I give it a week until someone's modded it to then still have be
As
blue and have
they
the sad
should.
face.
We have it rainbow
There's
coloured.
there's no reason that information and blue can't exist on the same
Yeah,
screen.
it's not-
Blue is not what was holding you back, Microsoft. Blue is not the bottleneck.
I now just want the clip of Corey yelling. Blue
Yeah, that's
is
going
not
on
the
TikTok.
bottleneck.
Sure.
Oh, beautiful. But yeah,
Screw it.
effing chat.
You could honestly, if you are changing it from blue, you could at least choose an interesting color, like red or green, but black.
Well, they've had
Microsoft.
green before.
Yeah,
some
exactly.
development versions of Windows would have green.
Like,
Exactly,
blue is
G-sod.
clearly, it's, oh no, something's gone wrong here, the entire thing's gone blue. If it's just black, like, loads of things make it go black.
Yeah, like it could just be like, Jamie's trying to give me signals, but I don't.
Jamie's
No,
Well-
Jamie, I'm upset.
annoyed about the lack of V-sod.
Google.
Yes, so we're wrapping up the main section of
Oh,
news
I actually better be
because
on the show
Google
for this one. Yeah.
Held Google I/O
Yeah.
about a
So-
month and a bit ago. It was all AI,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well, that's the thing. We
Right.
say we were going to cover this one. Me and you were going to talk about it. I'm going to scroll down this document, and the second I read like any kind of AI bollocks in an announcement, I'm going to stop reading that announcement. And I saw it was in every heading of every announcement,
So you
and I just
read
kept scrolling.
nothing?
I don't think I read any of the article.
Well, what's
Oh,
interesting?
actually, no, I did see one interesting thing. Google Glass is coming back.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Android XR is coming to glasses. They did a demo with live translation and a couple of other features. I think they now look like normal glasses, not like the monstrosity.
Which is
Yeah.
upsetting, because I want a
13
pair
years
of
ago.
Google
The
Glasses.
2015 ones were something. Yeah.
Was it only 20? I could have sworn
I
it was
was-
earlier than
It's
2015.
2012, I think.
Was it 2012?
Yeah,
I
was gonna
don't
say,
believe
it
in the
was
passage of time.
I was watching it live,
Yeah.
and they it was quite funny that in classic fashion with a live demo, they had two sets of glasses, and they were essentially showing the like next to each other as they were going around backstage and stuff. The frame rate of the video that they were getting from one of them was approximately none. And even once they both got onto the stage and they were trying to do a demo between each other, it was blatantly obvious that one of the glasses had probably just memory leaked and then just
Beautiful.
outright died.
I love it when
But,
demos just don't work.
I believe with this, with Google, they've realized that this is now effectively the AI conference. And so they've made another conference that actually has the Android features that everyone else cares about. And I didn't watch that one. So that was...
Oh yeah, Google Beam. It's Google Meets, but again.
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah. This was
it's cool.
What is Google? I've
Okay.
seen nothing about this.
It had a different codename before, but essentially, in a very fancy meeting room, you'll be able to have a meeting with someone that looks like they're there in 3D. So they've got this very expensive device. HP are making the first one, I think, and they're announcing it soon.
Like the owl.
No,
it's
it's
essentially a
Talk about it.
TV, but it's like using AI to make a light box behind you.
Oh, the
And
kind
then
of
it
like
looks like-
holograms
yes.
that
Yeah.
they put on Futurama.
It
and,
looks like a literal window with a room on the other side, and the room
Oh.
With live
is the person
scale,
on the
with
other side.
spatial audio, with like you move your head and your view of the other person changes.
Oh, that's weird. I
yeah.
don't like that.
We had someone try and demonstrate one of these to us at work, and they were really cool. Cannot see a use case.
It's very much if you want a really engaging meeting. And
You know, I would like to be less engaged in meetings if possible.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, I think that might just be the end of our news. Was there anything else at the event?
It is.
No. Well, more AI, but when is there not going to be? But
Yeah.
I actually think that might be the
We on-
news.
we on
We've
to the
only
next
been.
segment.
I was about to say we're only
It's
just.
been live for what, 2 hours?
It's apple juice time now.
Yay.
Obviously, we're going to do the WWDC recap in a second.
Of course.
Before we get to that, a couple of other things. So, this time last year on our first independent episode, Marks and I talked about our experience using the Apple Vision Pro.
Mhm.
And now you two, you've also had a demo. So do you want to tell us?
Indeed.
I've
Yeah.
deliberately not asked since you had that what you thought of it.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
What a
we
photo.
went along. What were we doing
Yeah.
in Leeds?
Plaza. We
Yes.
went to Plaza.
We went to the Plaza, basically video and sound
That should
event.
have probably gone in the past month, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
Whoops.
well, trade show. We went there anyway. But while we were there, we had a bit of time to kill on the way back, and there was an Apple store in the centre we were walking through to get to the station. And I went, oh, it'd be funny if we walked in. I was like, hey, they've got Vision Pros. Walk up to one. They went, do you want a demo? I went, yeah, come on then. So we
Why
did.
not?
We spent probably about half an hour messing about with them.
They lured us in.
Presumably
Yeah.
that was before iOS 26 or whatever came out.
Yeah.
Pass.
So you didn't see all the widgets that they
It's-
very
No,
slowly
no,
copied
no.
from HoloLens.
So, Emily, what was your experience?
Well, I really liked it. I thought it had a good quality camera. The problem was it really hurt on my face. I didn't realise that it sort of adjusts according to your head shape. So I sort of put it on, and then it was like, oh, adjusting. And then it really hurt my nose.
And clamped right onto your
Yeah.
nose.
Which was a surprise. But I don't know how to feel because like the demo I had was just sort of for games and video and entertainment purposes, which was nice. But I feel like you could quite quickly grow tired of it. It sort of reminded me of how Nintendo with the 3DS they had the 3D function, and at first it was like, oh, this is cool.
You use it for about 4 minutes
Yeah.
and then it hurts your eyes.
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have to play
That-
too much.
That's
it felt
the
like a rehash
impression.
of that kind of experience.
Okay.
But-
I was speaking about how in Vision OS now it's 26 because they've decided that all their products now are the year after it was released. So probably in Apple parlance, all the features will be ready by the end of the release cycle that they announced them in.
Yeah.
yeah.
But one of the very interesting, and they put the new widgets in that follow you around the room like the HoloLens did like 5 years ago.
Well, yeah.
I mean, and the one of the things that they advertised in the marketing was, oh yeah, you can be next to each other on the sofa at home and watch a humongous screen. But for the price of the $7,000 that you would pay for two Apple
Go to the
glasses,
cinema.
just buy a big TV and surround system.
Well,
like-
I mean,
Yeah.
overall, our experience was, it's kind of cool, wouldn't buy it. Which I think
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
kind of the conclusion everyone came
I
to.
think
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah.
saw one in CEX already.
Oh.
So I
I'm just
don't know what
interested
that
how it would
means.
work with like my glasses. 'cause
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no,
am-
we talked about this
They
before.
put
Yeah,
a
you say.
prescription into your... What child previous episode on it? But
Ah,
they put
I
a
don't
prescription into the lens.
One
So, yeah.
thing I wish you could do with it is video editing, because I asked them if that was a possibility, but they said unfortunately.
Well, you just put your
not.
Mac...
I
If
think
you have a
there is-
Mac...
I think
Really?
Wicked
Oh.
was actually edited in Vision Pro.
Was it?
John
'Cause
and
I
Chu
was
has
gonna
talked a
say,
lot
that
about.
would be
Yeah,
quite useful.
because you can bring your Mac screen into
Yeah.
the Vision Pro and have it like an
Oh, so
ultra wide.
It
anything
does
could
require
just
having
use
a
your
Mac.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, the screen blanks and it just comes big in front of
And I think they're
Actually,
also bringing Premiere to it.
really, oh,
this year.
brilliant. 'Cause
Well-
that is the one thing I would compliment about it was its gesture recognition. It was very, very
precise
clear.
and-
You know, you don't have to sort of do, because I kept doing big, clear kind of things like that. You don't. You just have to do little
Well,
pinches. and
it's
then it
also
just knows
curious
what you're
because
doing.
in another weirdly not Apple thing, I think they've now in Vision OS 26, they're now also adding the support for hardware controllers, like the PlayStation.
We're getting onto all this, don't you
Oh,
worry.
okay.
Well,
All right.
okay. Well,
I was going to
speaking
say,
of
next slide.
WDC, that happened. Cameron, you're a big fan of Apple and all Apple things.
moving
Would
on.
you like to
Who's
give us
playing with my
a
slides?
very brief and very
Yes.
quick run through
I'm going to very
of what
briefly
happened in
note
WDC?
first. We talked previously about
Keep going.
about John Gruber's
to you.
recent article about Siri and Apple Intelligence features being delayed and being arguably vaporware. And in response to that, they refused to do their usual interview with him. Every year for the past decade or so, Apple execs have gone on his live version of his podcast at WWDC, and this year they refused. So they're clearly taking the
Wait,
bad press
who?
very well.
Who? I wasn't paying attention.
Too late.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, WWDC, we're going to rattle through.
Yes,
As Matt
liquid
mentioned,
ass.
Everything is now version 26 because it's mostly going to be in use throughout 2026.
Except the macOS is still macOS Tahoe.
Apple
And on
marketing
26.
still can't count. This
They
is liquid
redesigned
glass.
everything.
They did redesign everything, but
Slightly.
not as everything as you might think.
Yeah.
For context, I have been using the beta on my iPad since the beginning. I just put it on my phone the other day.
And
because
it
I
didn't
hate
go very well earlier.
It's mostly been pretty stable, to be honest.
Until
I've been doing
today.
the beta since iOS 7, and this is not bad in the grand scheme of things.
Like, to me, this
yeah.
looks like, you know, in, 2015, 2014, where you'd have an Android and you'd get those apps that could do, like, you know, Apple lock
Launchers.
screen,
Yeah,
like the launchers on it. It looks like that to me.
It does look like a bad.
It does. The reason we call it liquid ass instead of liquid glass is because it does just look like that.
It looks
Yeah.
like
It's
it's
terrible.
too in your face, in my opinion.
I've kind of slowly got used to it, but at first I don't disagree. I also think it's interesting how much didn't change, in that, you know, it's used by billion-plus people. They need to make sure that actually how people use it.
It can still use it
yeah.
after the update.
What
Yeah.
they have to balance that with making it look new and exciting. So a lot of the iconography itself is the same, but they've kind of given it a new appearance to
Okay.
try and balance those two things. So we are starting. That's on all the Apple platforms, by the way, at the same time, which is the first time they've ever
Okay.
done something like that. We start with iOS.
Right? It's the same issue that Google's Material You have is over on sort of Google stock Android, which is this will work for all the apps that have a compatible icon.
To be
then you'll
fair-
have one app you use that it doesn't work with.
In iOS, they laid almost all the groundwork last year with the dark mode ones, so the adoption is really high, and they do computer vision-y stuff on icons where the developer
And
hasn't
if
done
you
it.
do all like the widgets like that, though, I would. You know how angry the Duolingo owl gets on the widget. I want to see what it's going to be in like the clear mode, so it can't just angrily glare you down.
Or it can, it'll just be transparent.
It's
Can you pass
easier
me
to
a
ignore
arrow?
them.
So feature-wise, of course, there was
Terry.
Apple Intelligence stuff.
Why am I saying into the
The headline thing was live translation, so in phone. Yeah.
What's interesting is it'll work with people who don't have FaceTime, as in, like, it could do live translation on a phone call. However, the latency does sound like you're talking to someone on the moon.
Excellent.
Then, in terms of other Apple Intelligence features, visual basically circle to search now exists. When you take a screenshot, you can look up what's in the screenshot.
Android.
I was going to
Yeah.
say a
years ago.
Google feature from
I
years
They
ago.
don't know
also-
if accident.
I can sense
Yeah.
this news is going to make everyone here very happy. In Image Playground, which is already AI bollocks, said last year about we won't do photorealistic stuff because we're really aware of the ethical consequences of. No,
Oh.
you could just.
Yeah,
A
who's
billion
surprised?
iPhone users will be able to do that for free. And
Is they think that people have forgot that they said that by now?
yeah,
Is that their
Yeah.
hope?
Yeah.
What would be a good hike
they've
today with my
also
kids
opened
after
up
a long
the
drive?
models behind Apple Intelligence to developers so they can use them to generate text.
Because
and
this
images
is
in
actually a
their apps.
developer conference.
Yeah, and they briefly remembered that at the start, and then didn't talk about anything else. Interesting. Very interesting. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
They're actually useful features.
Actually useful features. Yeah. Your iPhone will sit on hold for you now. That's good. I think Google did have that.
Wait, what?
No, they had. Google had call screening, where if an
So
unknown
that's
number
also
called
coming
you,
to iOS.
an AI voice would go, "Who are you and what do you want?" And then it would like give you a transcription of it and let you decide whether you want to call it. Google had that.
It gets through about who are you before the scam caller hangs up usually.
What they've now
Which isn't
added
doing
is a
what it gets
feature
in
where
any purpose.
it will now sit in hold for you, listen for the end of the hold music, and then
Yeah.
notify you when you've got to the end, which is going to be
Okay,
great for when
that's
you're calling
good. I was going to
GPs.
say, calling
Yeah.
the doctors. That's perfect.
That's
yeah.
quite good.
The only issue is if you don't get to it quick enough and they just hang up, then you're kind
Yeah.
of stuck.
And it's also going to be confused by all the "Did you know you could do all this stuff online?" prompts that keep playing over and
well,
over again.
quite, yeah. So,
Uh,
we'll see how it happens.
In
It's AI, innit?
iMessage, you can now add polls
Wow!
and add
WhatsApp feature
backgrounds,
from like 10
Wow.
years ago.
and you can ask multiple of your friends for cash at the same
Oh,
time.
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Pay
Now
me.
that's something I'll use.
If you're American, only if you're American. In Apple Music, okay, one of the features I actually like is auto mix. So it will now try when you're going from one song to another to match them and make a seamless transition.
Oh,
Okay, that's neat.
I've been trying to listen to it a lot to get a sense
so
of because obviously-
Spotify crossfade.
No,
It's a
but
bit
it's doing
smarter than
some
that.
smarter.
things like
So the feature Spotify has on some playlists, but not all of them.
So, in some cases, it just does nothing. That's the worst case scenario. In a lot of cases, it will just be like gapless playback, essentially. It will just start the next song earlier. And then 5% of the time, it will just do a naive crossfade. And then very occasionally, it pulls off like a human DJ level transition. And that's very cool when it happens.
Cool.
And then also lyrics translation and lyrics pronunciation.
That's
Oh,
cool.
nice.
My
That's
favourite
kinda cool.
feature, visited places. I love the idea of being able to have a view of everywhere I've ever been, basically, especially like source.
Okay,
code.
well, the problem is-
Hang on, hang on.
Yes. I know that Google has had it for a long time.
I was
I've
gonna-
used various apps for this over the years, but they've all taken quite a lot of manual effort. So finally, this is going to be a native feature, and I won't have to do anything. And
So
I'm
Now,
happy about
the
it.
thing that makes
I
me
know it-
suspicious about it is
Yeah.
that they've said it's only available in certain countries,
Yeah,
which
about
makes
6
me suspect
countries.
that they're going to try to make it too clever.
It's also not in the beta currently, which is very interesting.
Because like it's
So
actually
it's-
not that hard to implement.
Which very few features are not in the beta right now because they've learnt their lesson from Apple Intelligence last year and only talked about stuff they know they're about to ship.
But not this.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
thing about
sorry.
this is, my one problem with it is, like, I don't necessarily have much of a problem with it, but I know some people will, is the fact that you can have all this data on yourself means they have all this data
That
on
was
yourself.
my comment a second
In fairness, I presume
hear you,
in
sorry.
They
typical
have it anyway.
in typical
Yeah.
Apple fashion, I presume that they would store it end-to-end encrypted,
And on
Yeah.
device, I would assume.
or like on
because
iCloud,
they
but
already
end-to-end
do
encrypted.
significant places
Assuming you
as
trust
something that their apps can use, like for sorting your photos and stuff. This is just exposing it to the user.
Yeah.
And I guess giving
Oh
them-
no, I was fully
yeah.
aware they already collected
Yeah.
this data.
Uh,
It just-
and then there's a new games app.
Not to be confused with Game Center.
No, which still exists. I thought they killed it. In the settings, there are still references to Game Center. That's still.
It's an AI will tell you with zero heart or motivation in its voice, "You're doing great."
To be
Use
fair,
text-to-speech. for
the
that.
voice is trained specifically on like their Apple Fitness Plus fitness trainers,
But-
so it does have energy. I don't.
Does it though? Because the demo that they had, it just felt so lifeless. And that was the best one that they had that they chose to present at the keynote.
Yeah, it's an interesting feature for sure.
It's a bit naff.
tvOS has one feature worth talking about. You love setting up karaoke setups.
I'm a big
Does-
fan of holding a phone instead of a mic.
Hold on, but does it? How does it handle removing the vocals?
Apple
from
Music has that already.
Does it?
Yeah.
For
They have a
every
feature
song?
called Apple Music Sing for a decent number of songs.
I was gonna say because they would have to. Unless they're doing some
Yeah.
AI bollocks.
They are doing. They're doing machine learning on it.
Oh.
That's that's not generating anything. That's okay.
It's
I know
fine because it's for karaoke. Who
Okay, yeah,
cares?
fine. It's for karaoke.
Mac
Like-
OS. It gets all the
Hang
icon
on, go
theming.
back. That looks like Windows.
That does look like the Windows
had last year. It gets the phone app, as does the iPad.
Wait, as in you can phone?
Well, you already could take calls and make them from contacts and stuff, but now there's a standalone app. There's a new continuity feature where your live activities from your iPhone, which is when you have a delivery coming or something, or whatever, music playing, an alarm come through on your
Like
Something.
the flight radar.
It's something I've wished they'd had for years.
Yeah, that's nice. Spotlight is going to work. Yes. And
I'll
it's
still
getting-
stick to
Thank
Alfred.
goodness.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
a desktop OS is going to have a working search.
I know. You're gonna be able to execute shortcuts, so actions within apps just by typing them into
Okay, now
into
that's
search.
sexy. I like
It
that.
will search the menu bars of the app you're in. It finally has clipboard history. This is the most exciting feature from the whole WWDC. Finally, I will be able to see the things that I've copied. It's getting like quick key shortcuts as well.
You didn't have clipboard history.
No, we didn't. Let's move on.
No, I don't think we
and
should.
then, Apple Intelligence feature
All right.
number X. In the Shortcuts app, you will now be able to directly query Apple's language models or ChatGPT. So, yeah. I don't think. And then, one more macOS feature that you're excited about, Marks, is containers.
Yes. Long story short, running containers, if you're interested in what they are, watch a highlight for the previous episode over there, is on macOS has always been a bit of a faff because you've essentially had to run a Linux VM because they are Linux containers and it's been battery hungry. There's been improvements made to it over the years, but it's still a bit battery hungry. Now, Apple have come out and basically done their own take on it, which is sort of like what Microsoft did with WSL, in that they have a little Linux micro VM with some like fancy technologies. And what's also interesting is the command line for it is basically one-to-one with the Docker command line. It's going to be very interesting to how this develops, particularly as it means that Docker is losing its moat. Their moat is currently Docker Hub, which is where a lot of people get their base images from, and a lot of companies pay a lot of money for unrestricted access to it, particularly since they started clamping down on it some time ago. But it'll be interesting to see how this evolves, particularly if there's somebody with the might of Apple in the game.
Now, Matt spoiled my Vision OS segment, so we'll speed through this. It's getting widgets, so you
Wow.
can pin them up on the wall. Hot take, I kind of like the widgets.
Well, you
I
can
also
put them
saw
on
the
wall and
same
then, like, walk away.
HoloLens.
That is
yeah,
actually kinda-
and it
that
will
is
persist
cool.
even when you
quite
turn the
like it,
headset off and put it back. So you can decorate your wall with like, and they're making them look nice. So Apple Music has like a poster of the music you
Well,
listen to.
that's
And that
kind of
sort of
Oh,
thing.
what I
that's
thought
really
it was meant
cool.
to
Do you know
be,
what?
so I quite like it.
That
I like that.
kinda- it's
reminds
kinda
me of, like,
selling
the
me
lobby.
on.
For the 3.5 grand Vision Pro.
If it
Yeah,
looks
It
like
looks really
this,
cool.
Yeah.
Also,
honestly.
Windows will now persist when you take the headset off and everything, so you can set up your desk as you want it and keep coming
Wait,
back to
they
it.
didn't.
Yeah, they didn't before. Moving on.
Oh, no. There was the one really exciting Vision OS feature, unless you've included it later.
I probably have. Which one?
The fact that if you and your friend now both have Vision Pros,
That's this feature.
you can sit in the living room, both wearing your Vision Pros, watching the same TV show or the same virtual TV.
Just buy a TV.
Or
Excellent.
you could spend the $7,000 on a banging AV setup.
Just buy a
Brilliant.
telly.
One long overdue improvement is the personas. They no longer look like shit. That's the old one. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Oh
They
my
look
god, she's got shoulders
like
now.
shit. Yep.
That's just got creepier.
So that's basically a solved problem, it turns out. This is a fun one. Spatial scenes. So they will now use AI bollocks to analyze any 2D photo and generate the points of what was behind the subject.
Oh, I think
So
we
it-
have a demo.
Oh, interesting.
Something that
Because there was the
someone
spatial
sent us.
photos, but then you
yeah,
have to
that does
actively
ring a
take
bell.
them. This will, and you can generate
Yes.
those from
We
a
had spatial
standard
pictures
photo.
in our demo.
Yeah.
They said this was taken on an iPhone. You can see the people. I was
Yeah.
looking around this family, which was a bit weird, but then
Yeah,
I could
that was
kind
the
of
one.
see a shift in perspective. It's quite
So from what I've heard,
Jamie
this is
talking to microphone challenge.
a
well,
different.
The gain will be high on that one. 'cause it's anyway. So if I
And you're
yell,
quite
The
loud.
gain's the same on all of them.
Is it?
Yeah.
Moving on.
From what I've
It's
heard,
got
this
a
is like,
compressor on it.
another step up on that in terms of depth, and they're also kind of integrating it into the web so that websites will be able to, when running on Vision Pro, have kind of these spatial scenes in them. The other cool thing about that is you can view them on your iPhone by tilting, so you can convert any photo like that.
It's like
And
that
you
thing
can-
on Facebook that I hate.
No,
Facebook
it's
has the images that move with the phone. They're awful.
oh maybe it's slightly less jank than that.
Oh, no,
But
I
you can
hate
set them
those,
as
yeah.
your lock screen, and so it's a bit more subtle,
'cause your lock
but it
screen
responds
kind
to
of
the movement of your hand
Yeah.
to give you
Brilliant.
some kind of depth,
You know what?
which
This,
is
just sorry, I zoned out, but this demonstration where it's doing the scroll down, and
also you
like
can just
perspective
scroll with your eyes
windows.
now. You don't even need to use your hands. There's an optional setting for that.
like
cool.
that looks. That's the
Um,
one thing that's
Also, it will
images are
natively
really
play
sold.
back like Insta360 and GoPro Fusion footage.
Oh, very
nicely.
cool. That is nice.
That is
Um,
very cool.
As Matt said, external controllers, PlayStation controllers, and also Logitech are making like a stylus for it.
I can play Wii Sports Tennis.
Yeah. So some decent quality of life improvements. That it's although they're not producing the actual devices anymore, they're still investing in the platform.
So external controllers. How long
Yeah.
until we can just do full-fledged VR on the Vision Pro?
I mean, you kind of can in an app. It's just not its primary use case. Anyway, iPad OS. They saved kind of the biggest news for last. They finally figured out windowing on iPad.
Oh,
Brilliant.
So
finally.
you can now just like launch windows and resize them. You'll notice there are 3 little dots in the corner, right? And what they do, one of them is red, one of them is yellow, and one of them is green.
Is
And
this?
just the red one, it closes the app. The yellow
Oh
one
my
minimizes
God.
the app, and the green one takes it full screen.
Okay,
That's
but
fascinating.
Yeah. And
'Cause at the
in addition
moment-
to that, there's also this menu at the top. Call it a menu bar at the top of the screen.
Right, okay,
And it
yeah.
has
I'm
kind
seeing
of
what
all
you're
sorts of
driving
different
at.
options.
sorry.
No, we
let
don't
me
have time for your
clarify.
comment.
So, I feel like they've done this before.
They might have done. Anyway, have you got
You
anything
might be
else to
thinking
show
of
us?
Stage Manager, but that was the windows kind of arranged themselves.
I was talking about Mac
Oh, I
OS.
see.
Excellent.
Is
Yeah, I was
there
talking
a
about-
Yeah,
limit, like
You've
a
said
minimum?
the funny bit out loud. Anyway,
Is there like a minimum spec, like because for the stage?
It's every iPad.
Oh, okay, nice. Because I know because it's only like the M chips or whatever.
discontinue like mine.
You can also, never seen this before, you can add a folder to the dock. That's crazy,
Brilliant.
isn't it?
Right, next.
And you can decorate them with emoji in different colours and stuff.
excellent. ADHD overload. Love it.
Preview is on the iPad and the iPhone. Finally, decent software for viewing PDFs.
Great.
Next.
You guys didn't have software for
Background
PDFs
tasks.
before?
This is quite fun. It can now export a video in the background without the app open. Couldn't
Crazy.
do that before.
You guys can't do something in the background.
Local capture. Now, if you want to do a podcast, like when we can't all get in the same room, you can record your video call and your local audio easily.
Would
on
that
the
work?
iPad.
Is that only for FaceTime, or would it work on
No,
other
it's-
apps as well?
it works on other apps.
Okay,
Oh,
that's actually
nice.
not terrible.
Yeah, that's good.
The only
Disney-
person who's often remote doesn't have any Apple products.
Skill issue.
Well,
Oh, well.
we'll be the
You can
local
borrow
ones. They
one
can
of
be
theirs,
remote.
yeah. And Dizzy, you might like this 3D graphing in Notes.
Ooh.
That's fun.
Oh, I do like that a lot.
Cool, that's WWDC. Moving on. AI bollocks.
Right, speed run. Let's
Okay,
go. Marks.
Yes.
Intelligence.
Yes. So I have Apple Intelligence on my MacBook,
As you can see,
and what it do-
summarizes Slack.
Badly.
Hey, my tray!
and yes, it attempts to summarize Slack conversations. The problem is,
Emphasis on attempts.
yes, the problem that it has is it hasn't quite realized that a stack of Slack notifications could all be from multiple different conversations, and so it attempts to summarize them as if they were all one conversation, with hilarious results.
Can we just
In
read
pain, can't beat the boss
Right,
man.
pause and read through these because we have a dinner reservation in 2 minutes.
I can just read my favourite one. Emily over to car. Laffy's entertainment software piracy. Corey Anderson dislikes a joke.
3 genders, tag yourself.
Confusion about counting LED code in Java. Relays in a box. Why Stevie baby budgets?
Next.
Esports may require radio B. Second polygon found.
Corey.
tell us about
Corey,
Oh.
Oblivion Remastered. Yes. So.
The Xbox supports AI leaked the game's release date.
Yeah, pretty much. And I remember Mark saying to me, "Oh well, no, they wouldn't," and they didn't quite release it on the date the AI said. They announced that they were going to announce something on the day the AI said, and then the next day they announced it.
So it leaked an incorrect release date.
Yeah.
Great.
No,
Thanks.
classic AI.
Yeah.
Yes, a lawyer tried to use AI to write a court brief, and without quite checking it, the judge read through it and found nearly 30 citations that included misquotes,
Was it just straight making shit up?
misquote, misrepresentations of principle of law, including discussions of legal principles that simply do not appear in the discussions that it was citing, misstatements regarding where case law originated, misattributions of case law, and most egregiously, citations of cases that do not exist.
Beautiful.
And the lawyers tried to weasel their way out of it. It didn't go well for them. They're now
How?
facing an order to a show cause, which is a legal term for tell us why we shouldn't you sanction you to hell and back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Garmin
next
is
time.
adding AI and a subscription tier to their app.
It's a
Please no.
subscription tier, so if you don't want to pay for
Yes,
bollocks, you
please
have to pay
keep
for it.
my Garmin working, or I'll switch to an Apple Watch.
That is a threat.
Dizzy, you said this.
Yes. So, I found this one article that very much entertains me, where if you think of the amount of different AI company logos, think like OpenAI, think the Gemini, the amount of them that spread out interesting. They all look like buttholes. I'm sorry, but they just all look like buttholes.
I think the only one I can think of that doesn't look like a butthole is DeepSeek.
Yeah.
But that's a blowhole.
Yeah.
Whale.
All the rest of they just look like buttholes. Please Google this article, find the picture, because genuinely, when I first saw it, I nearly pissed myself laughing. They all look like arseholes.
Producer, put it in the show notes.
Or put it here in the TikTok.
We're not doing that one. We're doing this one.
This is becoming a common theme.
Yes, it is.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, the definition of optional. Does anyone want to define the word optional for me?
Yeah, not that. I open WhatsApp, as I often do, because a lot of my friends communicate on there, and then I see in the search bar, Ask Meta AI. I see in the bottom right corner where it's normally, the little plus, add a new chat. There's the circle for the AI thing, and then I Google it, and it's like, oh yes. They say it's optional. You can't get rid of it. You can't remove
But
it.
consider, you don't have to press it.
But
No one
like-
is forcing you to press that button.
Yeah, but I don't want it there in the first place.
Okay, but the use of the feature is optional.
Yeah, but it's shoehorned into. Next slide.
Next slide, Marks.
You know how OnePlus phones have a slidey thingy on the sides?
I do
Go
now.
on, live demo. They have.
It has. Someone point a mic at me. On the side, on the side of my phone, there's an alert slider. Bottom is loud, top is silent, middle is vibrate.
But what if instead of that you had an AI button?
Oh boy, do I!
Fascinating.
Jamie in stereo.
And how I don't want an AI button.
Next.
Which ones are we talking
No.
about? No.
Though Nick Clegg is funny.
No.
You,
Yes.
Oh, this one.
yes.
This
So
one.
this one is from today.
Yeah. YouTube have just
Cameron.
introduced a new feature where they will hopefully suggest some videos that we might want to make and even generate thumbnails for us.
So this is prime Untitled.
They were very keen for us to talk about a Samsung smart fridge because one person left a comment saying they wanted us to elaborate on that in a previous episode.
So if you're that person, you've broken our AI.
Yeah, I like the one at the start. What's the story with the real people in PDFs?
What?
What do you think the P in PDF stands for?
Penis.
And of
Thanks,
course,
Corey.
the text in the thumbnail was completely wrong and wrote the word story twice. How to build a sustainable tech career and exploring the future of digital art. I generated a bunch of these. They were all rubbish.
Yeah.
Why Asahi Linux isn't on Apple's roadmap? What does that
Why would it be
mean?
on Apple's roadmap?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we could go on about these ideas all
Yeah.
day. They're very funny, but
Are we doing this? Oh, yes. So you could prompt inject Apple Intelligence.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
By putting the right text into writing tools. You can also prompt inject the AI overviews in Google search.
Booga boo.
excellent.
Oh,
I
that's
did try this.
amazing.
They did fix this after this came out because I did try to do this.
That's boring. I want booga booga boo.
Booga booga boo.
And
Dabba-doo, dabba-doo.
Dabba dabba dabba.
Dabba-dabba-doo.
And also, speaking of all this like AI shit, Denmark, some maybe good news, depending how you swing. But Denmark have decided to tackle
In
deepfakes
Pride Month.
by giving people copyright to their own features.
This
Copyright my
is
ass.
going to be interesting because this can be very easily turned the wrong way.
Is it their entire
That's the
bodies
problem.
they have
Because
copyright for, or just their faces?
The problem is, by them having copyright to their own features, are they going to have to sign that away in order to be, say, in a film?
I'm assuming no. But it's an interesting
Or would they not have... Because I would assume a studio would be like, oh, so that you can appear, sign away, and then they're signing away their likeness, and thus it breaks the
And then
entire...
there's no protection against.
There's no protection.
things, yeah.
So what happens to things where their likeness appears in already copyrightable works by other parties?
It'll be interesting to see how it works in practice.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, we're gonna move on. Thank God from AI.
Yeah.
So eBay. Jamie, you've bought some stuff.
Yes, this
Matthew, you've
month
also
I
bought
went
some
on
stuff.
eBay and I bought, first of all, some Wirestorm Network HD equipment, which is essentially video over IP. I have one receiver, one transmitter, and a processor to control them.
Hardly know, hardly
and
know,
it
hardly know.
means I can basically plug this in my living room and plug the receiver in my dining room and watch TV in the dining room without having to have another TV box and run cables and whatnot. I could watch the Xbox or the Wii U or whatever in the other room. Another thing I bought, which is more AV over IP stuff. I have here a.
Well, this is the A over IP.
this
that's
is
the V.
Dante, a Dante receiver.
Hardly know.
So that's audio over IP, and it allows me to listen to Spotify everywhere in my house. But that's
You
what
already
I
had a
bought.
tool for that. It's called headphones.
Yeah, but I wanted it going out loud. But yeah, that was my my eBay.
Oh, we're doing Matt's
And-
bit over there.
And now, Matt
We now
Strat,
cut live
we're going to cut
to
to
the
your
gallery.
camera because you've made quite a large. You've made quite a large purchase. Are you able to speak currently? No, we're looking for an XLR. Okay, I'm going to commentate. So Matt Strat has bought and a very quite a big investment you've actually made into a sound desk that we're currently using that we're going to cut to. This is the a Behringer Wing Compact.
Bazinga.
It is a very nice desk.
It is a really nice desk. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
You're currently viewing it on a camcorder we had spare, but
Yeah.
this is a very nice desk, and I'm actually a very big fan of it. Corey, you've been a big fan of it as well.
I have. I've been using. You didn't even put the mic on me, Cameron. I'm using it.
I know.
I got a chance when you've seen me running off because I went to go mix the show on that desk.
It's very sexy.
I was digging through it, digging through the effects units, digging through the compressor units. It has a compressor unit called what was it called? Eternal Bliss. I'm quite curious what
Let's hear
what
from Matt
is exactly
Strat.
eternal blissful about a compressor.
Who knows? But let's Matt Strat. Can we hear you?
It sounds like it, yes. I don't sound very good, but there you go. Yeah, so it's got a touchscreen, which is a major thing on the X32 that makes the X32 absolutely painful.
Or lack thereof.
Oh, yeah.
Does it have working knobs as well? That's an
Yes.
eventually the X32.
However, my friend has the full size wing that they got when it was surprisingly cheap on Amazon for a week, and one of their knobs has already broken off it, so that was disappointing.
Oh, that's fun.
But you can have like two fancy effects, so I can change this compressor. And I can make it.
Well, look, you have two effects and then the compressors as well.
Yeah, and you can do bus-to-bus mixing and all the rest of it. So
it's like an X32 if an X32 was good. If anyone here has used an X32.
Yes, and it's all stereo. So there's 48 stereo channels.
Excellent. So
Also, unlike the full-size wing, it's actually got a competent amount of analog I/O as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, for some reason the original one it was like I don't know, personal. It was a personal mixing console or whatever they called it, which has magically disappeared when they coloured it black.
Because it wasn't the intention of the original wing you plug a stage box into it. And
Yeah,
use that.
pretty much. And they brought out the Stage Connect thing that they then took forever to make any I/O to actually plug into it. It took about 2 years for them to finish adding all the firmware button. Like on the full size one, there were several buttons that didn't do anything for about 2 years.
excellent stuff. That's
There
very
you go.
Behringer.
Cool.
But
Right.
we've also had Emily. You've made a purchase as well.
Well, my actual purchase was a 57. I'm trying to build up a freelancer kind of toolkit at the moment, and they say two big things for audio freelancers is an SM57 and a 58. So I thought it was about time to get one.
I need to buy a
also-
57.
Yeah,
Just
they're-
take the top off
they're
the 58.
lovely.
No.
No, there's a
Do
difference.
not.
But my other thing, I managed to get a freebie, which doesn't work. I got a Creality 8K 3D printer
Oh.
for free.
It's a
and
resin
What have you
printer.
printed?
I haven't
Oh, that's
printed anything.
cool.
The problem is, unfortunately, I thought that they said that LED screen wasn't working. I thought it was the control panel. Turns out it's the actual LED that is used for the curing of resin, because it's sort of the way it's printed. It's sort of cured as the resin is printed.
Yeah.
So I need to replace an 8K LED screen, which will be £100 off AliExpress. But I'm hopeful, because the advantage of resin 3D printing is you can get a really high resolution. So hoping to do some little train models.
Gonna print
or that
a
kind of
train.
thing. Yeah, that's the plan.
Hell yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
But
also
when
the
you
touch
do
screen
get it
doesn't work.
working, do show it on
I will,
here.
I'll
I want to
bring
see
it.
the trains.
Yeah.
You'll bring it.
I will, yeah.
We
bring
might
it.
have to host
Bring
it at
in
your
the-
house
the
then.
printer or the
Kia
trains?
Picanto.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wait,
right.
hold on, slight interlude. Hi, Dad. I'm wearing a jumper around my neck because it's more comfortable up here than around my waist. Thank you, that's all. Sorry, my dad texted me to ask why I was wearing a jumper around my neck. Which is the only evidence I got that he was watching the show. Hi, Dad.
Right, we have a few final things to talk about before we go for dinner. These are just things that we found that are cool. Marks, would you like to talk about a blog that's
Cue Feral screaming.
posted in an interesting manner?
Excitement.
What is happening?
The show is so organised.
A Nintendo Wii into a web server.
Hardly know her.
What operating system do you think it used?
Some form of Linux.
NetBSD.
Oh, I used BSD.
Presumably because it was easier to make running on a Nintendo Wii.
Do you reckon this made use of the Homebrew Channel that's now been discontinued?
No. No. I don't think it did. It did get a little bit toasty from what I read. The other exciting thing is Blue Sky is, we've talked about it before, their big selling point is it is a decentralized network and the whole protocol is designed to work that way. But up until now, to make it work, we've still been very reliant on Blue Sky's infrastructure. In theory, it's been possible to not use it. In practice, you had been, until these mad lads demonstrated that it's possible to make a post on Blue Sky, or the Blue Sky network, and then see it without using any Blue Sky code or servers.
Oh, cool.
It proving that it is a functional decentralized network.
That's pretty cool. So it's just Mastodon 2.
But better.
How?
Watch our previous episode where we explained just that. The highlight is over there.
Oh, did we do that?
Yes. And you weren't there.
Oh, that's why I do.
And finally, one other thing that we thought was cool. We've talked about the person who made 1 million checkboxes as a kind of massive online multiplayer thing where you could tick and untick boxes and it
Was
would
that
sync
the
for everyone.
same guy that
and
did
it was-
the caps lock?
Yes, same person
Nice.
as well. We are big fans of your work, and the latest thing takes it to a whole other level. It is 1 million chessboards. You can move all the pieces anywhere, but according to the rules.
Oh, so they don't need to be constrained within
No,
their own
exactly.
board.
They can
Oh,
move.
beautiful.
I
So people
love
made
it.
like whole boards that were just one type of piece.
This
And
reminds me of like that Reddit feature where each person places
R slash
like, a
place.
pixel.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I was playing around with this earlier. Like, it'll tell you you're controlling the white pieces or you're controlling the black piece. But you can just like move a piece, then move it, then move it, then move it, then move it. I've not dug into it. Because obviously the boards are just like you can move on to the next board. Where do you need to get a pawn to turn it into a queen? Is it?
Good question.
Can it go to any backline or just its original backline?
that's a great question.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Check back next week. Next 3 months.
But we
Yeah.
will link to the long read on how they implemented this and made it vaguely scalable and
It's
basically
actually
they're-
quite interesting.
Yeah, they're sending like a certain zone around of the piece movements and the states, so they're not sending the whole thing at once.
Nice.
Invented an MMO.
Yes.
Yeah,
Based.
cool.
Speaking of things that are based,
I think
this
we're done.
show.
How long did that take us?
What? Are we done?
Yes.
Nearly 3 hours.
No. We need to do an outro.
Thanks
do
for
need to do an
watching
outro.
Untitled.
I think we've done
I'm
sufficient
hungry
behind the
and want to
scenes.
eat. Bye.
Hang on, who else has been here?
Oh, yeah, okay, so I've been Jamie.
I'm Corey.
I'm been Mark.
I've been Cameron.
I've been Emily.
I've been dizzy.
I've been Jamie, in case I didn't say that.
That's been Matthew.
That's been Matt Strat. Dan's over there.
Bye.
Bye.
See you in 3 months.